Chapter 3589. Pung the fist landed on the battle armor, and the power of the shock rolled out. This was something the battle armor couldn't completely dispel, and it continued to transmit towards Ling Han. But to Ling Han, who cultivated to the true pinnacle of each cultivation level, this kind of blow was nothing. Ling Han only needed to circulate his mystic power slightly, and he was able to nullify the vibrating power. Fuck, seeing this scene, everyone was speechless. How could they break through such a thick defense? If they couldn't break through Ling Han's defense, they wouldn't be able to injure him at all. So how could they talk about defeating Ling Han? The remaining people all frowned. If they wanted to get first, they might encounter Ling Han. So how could they deal with him? They racked their brains, and felt that after wearing this tortoise shell, Ling Han's defense was really unbreakable. King Yi, do you dare to fight fair and square? Lu Huayan roared angrily. Now his whole body was furry, and he was basically a gorilla. Ling Han was surprised. Did I injure you with a sneak attack? No, Lu Huayan answered subconsciously. Did I ambush you from behind? Ling Han asked again. No. Lu Huayan shook his head, not understanding why Ling Han would ask this. I didn't ambush you, nor did I injure you with hidden weapons. Why isn't it fair and square? Ling Han asked again. Lu Huayan was instantly speechless. Yes, it seemed like Ling Han was fair and square. Look, he was standing there and letting him hit him. But why did he feel that something was off? He thought and said, take off the battle armor, and we'll fight fair and square. He finally realized that this was the key point. No. Ling Han refused decisively. You don't play by the rules. Shouldn't you be heroic and say fair and square? Your strength isn't weaker than mine, okay? Why are you afraid of a fair battle? Lu Huayan bared his teeth. He really wanted to pounce and bite Ling Han to death. Is it really okay to bully people like this? You don't even dare to have a fair fight? He continued to provoke. Ling Han chuckled and said, I snatched this armor with my own ability. Why should I take it off to fight you? Damn, that makes sense. Everyone was speechless. Not only was Ling Han's defense like a tortoise's shell, his skin was also as thick as a tortoise's. They couldn't pierce through him at all. Lu Huayan was at her wit's end. She looked at the foundation-building powerhouse, supervising the battle, hoping that he could uphold justice. Are you going to fight or not? If you're not going to fight, then admit defeat, said the foundation establishment expert impatiently. Yes, Lu Huayan thought for a moment, then shook her head and said, I admit defeat. Fight my ass. I can't hurt anyone at all. Ling Han, on the other hand, said, thank you for letting me win. I'm recuperating now, yet I can subdue the enemy without fighting. My character is indeed noble. Puff. Lu Huayan immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. How shameless can you be? This is called persuading people by virtue. Admire your sister. Even the foundation establishment expert's face darkened again. He already knew that Ling Han was a weirdo yesterday, but today, he had raised his shamelessness to a whole new level. Ling Han chuckled. That's because you haven't seen the big black dog yet. If the big black dog was standing here now, just his iron underwear alone would be enough to blind your eyes, okay? This battle not only made Niu Huayan spit out blood, but also gave others a headache. They were all thinking about what they should do if they were to encounter Ling Han. With this thought, it naturally affected the brilliance of the next few battles, and they greatly lost their standard. Because there were only 8 battles, they were all finished by noon. Therefore, after lunch, the battles continued in the afternoon. Many disciples of the archaic sect also ran over to watch. Most of these people were in the extreme bone realm, or the engravement realm. Being able to watch the battles in the mystery realm, especially when it was a battle between geniuses, was naturally very beneficial to their growth. Ling Han soon entered the arena, still wearing his armor. His opponent was Sima Huai. What a coincidence, what a coincidence. Sima Huai's face was a little ugly. If he wanted to get first place, it was inevitable that he would have to pass through Ling Han. However, he had encountered him so soon. His face was still a little dark, because he had not yet thought of how to break through Ling Han's defense. He slowly walked onto the arena, and took out an axe. The axe was completely black, but the blade was flashing with a red light, as if it had just drunk its fill of blood. It made people tremble uncontrollably when they saw it. He roared loudly and brandished his axe in a slash at Ling Han. He used all his strength in this attack. However, at this moment, Ling Han gently took a step to the left, causing his axe to hit nothing. Then Ling Han punched at him. "Fuck, you're being shameless." Sima Huai was about to cry. "Previously, when you were fighting with Lu Huayan, didn't you not dodge or evade? Didn't you just rely on your defense to make the opponent admit defeat? Why did you dodge when it came to me?" He had not expected that Ling Han would do this at all. So when he swung his axe, he put all his strength into the attack and turned it into an extreme attack. Therefore, he could only watch the punch coming at him. Bang! When the fist hit him, Sima Huai felt as if all his internal organs and lungs were boiling. He could not help but lie on the side and vomit. He struggled to raise his head and looked at Ling Han. Ling Han winked at him. "My acting skills are not bad, right?" Puff. Sima Huai suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. No, he just fainted. He was so angry. Everyone in the arena was speechless. Ling Han's punch was not amazing at all. He had completely taken advantage of Sima Huai's weakness, which was completely unguarded, to defeat his opponent. Sinister and shameless, the remaining people looked at each other. Were they going to let such a shameless person step on everyone's face to reach the top? The powerhouse in the Foundation establishment realm was also speechless. This martial arts competition was to select talents. Although the first place had already been decided to be given to Lu Jun. In fact, if someone could defeat Lu Jun, the primordial true lord would only be happy. This was the ideal disciple in his mind. But if this person was Ling Han, the primordial true lord would definitely grit his teeth. Third senior brother. Didn't Master teach us that one's own strength is the way to go? But that person is wearing a set of armor and defeated his opponent with one punch. Among the disciples of the primordial sect who were watching the battle, a young man who was only 13 or 14 years old asked an older senior brother beside him with a dumbfounded face. The senior brother was speechless. This was simply ruining his worldview. After the 4 battles in the afternoon, there were only 4 people left who could fight again tomorrow. They were Ling Han, Lu Jun, Kong Rui, and Marua. Ling Han's next opponent was Kong Rui, a young man full of spirit and extraordinary strength. The night passed and Ling Han still finished his cultivation. After eating breakfast, he arrived at the public square. There were even more people watching the battle today. After the 2 battles in the morning, the finals would be next. The disciples of the sect naturally had to flatter their senior brother Lu Jun. Ling Han took a look. The primordial sect was indeed protecting Lu Jun. This was because Lu Jun's battle was the first, and he had to wait for Lu Jun to finish before starting the second battle. The key was that after the second battle ended, the finals would immediately begin. This was naturally extremely unfair. End of this chapter. Chapter 3590. There was no absolute fairness in the world. This competition was organized by the archaic sect, so it was not surprising that it would be biased towards Lu Jun. Ling Han smiled faintly. Did they think this could stop him from winning the championship? Come on. The first match was between Lu Jun and Marua. Marua could reach the top 4, so he was obviously not weak. He fought fiercely with Lu Jun. But Lu Jun was obviously stronger. He kept suppressing his opponent, and after more than an hour, he finally defeated Marua. Long live Senior Brother Lu. Senior Brother Lu is invincible. Senior Brother Lu can be called number 1 under the immortal path. What Hong Tian step? If he dared to participate, he would definitely be easily defeated by Senior Brother Lu. Everyone was cheering for Lu Jun. Lu Jun walked back with an arrogant smile and took out some pills to recover his mystic power as soon as possible. After fighting for an hour, he had consumed quite a lot of his energy. The next match was between Ling Han and Kong Rui. Kong Rui was a young man with a pale face. He seemed to be seriously ill, and his complexion was very bad. He was coughing as he walked, and when he faced Ling Han he said, "If you admit defeat, I will give you a set of immortal arts." Was this blatant bribery? The supervising foundation establishment cultivator's face was ashen. He wanted to slap Kong Rui to death for daring to bribe him in front of him. But the problem was, if he slapped Kong Rui to death, then wouldn't Ling Han directly enter the finals? One was recuperating. while the other had just experienced a big battle. It was naturally very disadvantageous for Lu Jun. So he forcibly suppressed the urge to kill, and had to buy more time for Lu Jun. Don't talk nonsense, he said. Let's begin. Kong Rui sighed and said, these days, you don't even want money sent to your door? He still dared to say it. Everyone almost fainted. This person was also very unreliable. Ling Han laughed and said, let's fight. You're wearing a turtle shell, how can you fight? Kong Rui said and coughed. Look at me, I'm so sick. It wasn't easy for me to run here. Why don't you take off your armor and treat it as taking care of me? When everyone heard this, they only felt that this person was also very shameless. You were able to make it to the semi-finals. How could your battle prowess be ordinary? Patient. He had never seen a patient who was so good at fighting. Ling Han shook his head. Nothing much. Sigh, you really have no sympathy. Kong Rui shook his head. Suddenly, 2 streams of blood flowed out of his nose, causing him to be shocked. Fuck, I'm bleeding from my nose again. Everyone was surprised. This guy was really a patient. However, Ling Han's expression turned cold. That nosebleed wasn't bright red, but jet black like ink, and there was an indescribable darkness within it. Xiao. Kong Rui charged out, his hands clasped together. Boom. Instantly, a black shockwave shot out from his palms, transforming into a black dragon that rumbled toward Ling Han. Dark Dragon Pine. He roared. Ling Han's vision blurred, as if he really saw a black dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws at him. Its entire body was covered in indescribable symbols, as if it wanted to destroy the world. When the black light hit, Ling Han instantly felt that his armor was being corroded by a force. If this armor was only at the level of the mystery-seeking realm, then there would probably be a layer of rust by now. Unfortunately, this was a 1-star artifact, so how could it be destroyed by the mystery-seeking realm? The armor glowed on its own. The golden light illuminated everything, extremely eye-catching in the darkness. Boom! The black shockwave passed, but Ling Han still stood proudly. Kong Rui started coughing again. Freak, really freak. I've already risked my life, but I can't even hurt a single feather of his. Sigh sad. I'm done playing. Ling Han's expression couldn't help but darken. If you said you couldn't hurt a single feather, then so be it. Why did you have to say feather? Kong Rui really did say he was done playing. He turned around and left decisively. This Dark Dragon Pine was his greatest killing move, but even his ultimate move with the greatest attack power couldn't break through Ling Han's armor. Continuing to fight would be futile. He might as well admit defeat. Fighting consumed a lot of energy, and he might even get hurt. It wasn't worth it. The foundation building elite at the side wanted nothing more than to strangle Kong Rui. Was he still a martial artist? Why didn't he have any battle awareness? Oh, retreating without even fighting a single move? He was a complete coward. He looked towards Lu Jun. Even if the latter had taken a spiritual medicine, he'd only recovered 1/3 of his strength at most. What should he do? How could he stall for time? Let's fight. Unexpectedly, Lu Jun stood up and volunteered to fight. The foundation building elite was a bit hesitant. It was fine if Lu Jun won, but what if he lost? He couldn't bear the responsibility. No matter. Lu Jun had already walked out. He waved his hand, appearing extremely relaxed. This person is just relying on this armor. As long as I can break it, I can suppress him with 1 strike. His right hand shook, and a sword appeared out of thin air. This sword was extremely thin, like a piece of paper. It seemed like it would break with the slightest bit of force. Ken Yi, I didn't think it would be you standing in front of me, Lu Jun said indifferently. However, no matter who it is, they can only prostrate themselves before me. Ling Han made an inviting gesture and said, please continue your performance. Performance. Lu Jun instantly felt as if he'd received 10,000 points of damage. Was he, the personal disciple of the spirit transformation true lord, a clown, performing in front of him? Looks like you'll have to suffer a bit, he said darkly, and raised the thin sword. Instantly, the entire sword lit up. A celestial tool. Ling Han took a look, and could immediately determine that this was a 1-star celestial tool. Having used battle hammers many times, He was no stranger to one-star celestial tools. Under my unfettered sword, so what if you're wearing armor? Lu Jun said proudly. A celestial tool against a celestial tool. Then Ling Han's advantage would be gone. No wonder Lu Jun was so confident. As it turned out, he already had a way to deal with Ling Han. Shwa. Lu Jun unsheathed his sword, and a flash of sword chi slashed over, extremely fast. Ling Han stretched out his arm to block. Pooh! The sword chi slashed onto the armor. The majority of its power was neutralized, but there was still a portion that managed to penetrate through. He felt as if his skin had been torn open and blood flowed out. Ling Han was shocked. Did a one-star celestial tool have such great power? It wasn't like he hadn't used it before. And he definitely didn't think that the mystery realm could activate a one-star celestial tool with such power. Unless Ling Han came to a sudden realization. This celestial tool must have been tampered with by the primordial True Lord, which was why it could release power that was above average. However, it couldn't be too strong, or else the cheating would be too obvious. And if word got out, it would be a joke. A dignified spirit transformation True Lord couldn't even afford to lose a 2-star celestial fruit. However, did battle armor only have the advantage of having thick defense? Ling Han charged out. The golden eagle's 18 claws spread out, and his entire person seemed to have transformed into a primordial ferocious bird, attacking Lu Jun. He was a field of dazzling golden light. Phone reading was more refreshing. Chapter 3592. Ling Han successfully obtained the Star Luo Orchid fruit. When he obtained the immortal fruit, he breathed a sigh of relief. Previously, he was worried that the ancient sect would not keep their promise and not give him the immortal fruit. After all, the martial art competition was just a pretense, and the real purpose was to build momentum for Lord Lu. Of course, capturing Ling Han and recruiting outstanding talents was also done conveniently, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. He forcefully intervened and seized this treasure fruit, which was tantamount to a slap in the face for the ancient sect. Naturally, he was worried that the ancient sect would not keep their promise. Eat it, he immediately said in his heart. Only by eating it into his stomach would it be the safest. Ling Han ate it in large mouthfuls, but he immediately frowned. The taste of this thing really could not be described as delicious. There was an indescribable sour smell, and the flesh of the fruit was also gritty, not at all smooth and tender. He resisted the urge to spit it out, and swallowed the entire fruit into his stomach. Did I eat a fake immortal fruit? Ling Han could not help but think, but before he finished his thought, he immediately felt a world-shaking change in his body. A powerful force surged, causing his life level to rise. Pa pa pa. One shackle after another was broken, but Ling Han clearly did not open a single new aperture. As such, he could only sit and watch. Whether he used his secret force to guide it or sat down to rest, the change in his life level did not accelerate or slow down in the slightest. It was as if he had become an outsider. 1 2 3 4 5. Ling Han counted in his heart. More and more shackles were broken, causing him to be filled with joy. This was tantamount to an increase in a small realm, which was tantamount to an additional realm for him. Although it was not as terrifying as the 7 transformations and 7 bones, it was still very beneficial. If he was a 4-star genius before, then now he might have reached 4, 3 stars or even 4, 5 stars. In less than 20 minutes, the effect of the immortal fruit disappeared. Ling Han smacked his lips. Although the taste was terrible, he did not mind eating another one. If he could, he would eat until he was full. Of course, this was just wishful thinking. Moreover, even if he had an unlimited supply of celestial fruits, there was still a limit to the space he could improve. Even if it was a celestial fruit, the effect would only be the greatest when he consumed the first one. After that, the effect would be halved, and after a few times, the effect would be negligible. Unless he could obtain an even higher grade immortal fruit. Sigh. I'll definitely be able to in the future. Of course, if he could cultivate all 6 levels below the celestial path to perfection, and there was no way for him to advance any further, he would naturally not need to consume any more celestial fruits. Bam! The door was kicked open, and a man strode in. Lu Jun. Just now Ling Han was experiencing a leap in life level, so he naturally revealed his original appearance. He almost failed to disguise himself in time. Ling Han looked over with an unfriendly gaze. Hand over the star luo orchid fruit, and I'll give you this sword controlling technique. Lu Jun tossed out a book, and with a plop, it fell to the ground. Ling Han walked over and picked up the book. This was something that someone had specially delivered to his doorstep, so he naturally had no reason to reject it. Seeing Ling Han put away the cultivation technique, Lu Jun revealed a cold smile. He really was an inexperienced person, being sent off by a sword-controlling technique. He humphed and said, "Where's the star luo orchid fruit?" Ling Han smiled, then pointed at his stomach. "Fuck, you ate it? Fuck, then why did you still dare to put away the sword-controlling technique?" To him, though the sword-controlling technique was not all that precious, it was still a secret technique, and he had paid a price to obtain it. There was no reason for him to give it away for nothing. "Bastard, you dared to trick me," he shouted in a low voice. Meanwhile, Ling Han had a self-righteous expression and said, "I'm doing this for your own good. That star luo orchid fruit tastes terrible, sour and stinky. If you eat it, you'll definitely vomit. You've gotten a bargain, and you're still trying to show off. Qin Yi, you've gone too far." Lu Jun said coldly. He was thinking if he suddenly attacked now, would he be able to kill this guy? Hee, we're all family, Junior, don't be rude. With a long laugh, a man descended from the sky. Ling Han was startled. Could this be? He looked over. This man had a jade-like face, looked to be in his 40s, and had an extremely scholarly air. "Master." Lu Jun hurriedly cupped his fists and saluted, then said, "This person played with disciple like this. Disciple can't take it anymore." Lu Jun's master was obviously primordial true monarch. He smiled faintly and said, "Do you think you lost to Qin Yi because he has a battle armor, and you don't?" Lu Jun was immediately unconvinced and said, "Of course, in a fair battle he's definitely not my match." Wrong. Primordial true monarch shook his head. "If the factor of the celestial tool is disregarded, you can indeed tie with Qin Yi. Then it's settled." Lu Jun glared at Ling Han. Primordial sect only had a 2-star celestial tree, and according to primordial true monarch, it could only bear 1-star luo orchid fruit every 10 years. After 10 years, perhaps the next star luo orchid fruit would still belong to him. But the effect would be different if he took it while he was on the celestial path and after. Moreover, even if it was the same, he would lose an important leap in life level in these 10 years. Perhaps there would be some difficulties he couldn't break through, and perhaps there would be some strong enemies he couldn't defeat. The stakes were too high. The more he thought, the angrier he became, glaring angrily at Ling Han. Primordial true monarch smiled faintly and said, "So, in a fair battle, you're not Qin Yi's match." What kind of tongue twister was this? Lu Jun looked at his master in surprise. "You already said, putting aside the factor of the celestial tool, his strength was equal to Ling Han's. So why did you say that he wasn't Ling Han's match in a fair battle?" He was confused. "Idiot, Qin Yi is only in the opening aperture tier." Primordial true monarch finally said the truth. He was in the spirit transformation tier, so it was very natural for him to see through Ling Han's true cultivation level. Lu Jun instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. What, Ling Han was actually only in the opening aperture tier? How could it be? How could an opening aperture tier fight him to a draw? There couldn't be such a monster in the world. But would Primordial True Monarch make a mistake and deceive him? He finally understood what Primordial True Monarch really meant when he said that he wasn't Ling Han's match in a fair battle. If his cultivation level was suppressed to the opening aperture tier, how could he possibly be Ling Han's match? The difference wasn't just a little bit, but like the difference between heaven and earth. He was dazed, this blow was too great, and he couldn't accept it. Primordial True Monarch looked at Ling Han and said, "Can ye, are you willing to take me as your master?" Ling Han's mind spun quickly, and he cupped his fists, saying, "Of course." Ha 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 ha. Primordial True Monarch laughed loudly. Good, good, good. A month later, I'll hold a disciple ceremony for you and invite the whole world. This disciple's aptitude was too good, and he must use this opportunity to announce it to the whole world, first to show off, and second to tell others not to have any ideas about him. Lu Jun just came back to his senses, and hearing these words, he instantly received a 10,000 critical hits, wanting to vomit blood. Chapter 3593. This disciple of Ling Han's was too monstrous, so the Primordial True Lord planned to hold an incredibly grand disciple acceptance ceremony to announce to the world that it was not only the Nine-Spirit True Lord that had taken in the incomparably talented Hong Tianbu. This also saved Ling Han some trouble, because if he had to go through the formalities of becoming a disciple to the Primordial True Sovereign now, it would be too awkward. 1 month's time. Ling Han thought it was enough for him to stroll around the Primordial Sect a few times, find the treasury, and then make his move. As for King Yi, of course, he completely disappeared from then on. Perfect. Although he had to be a thief, Ling Han didn't feel any pressure. This world belonged to the people of Heavenly Sea Planet, and Primordial True Monarch, and the others were outsiders. Just because they were imprisoned for 2,000 years, they were qualified to occupy famous mountains, great rivers, and immortal herbs and historical sites. But it was strange, why didn't these people run away when they were free? The Azure Dragon Empire suppressed them here, and no one came. They must have thought that this cage could last for a long time. This place was destitute, so of course, they didn't need to send people here. But the Azure Dragon Empire couldn't never send people here. When this envoy arrived and found out that the cage was opened, and the environment was restored, it would definitely cause a war, right? On the surface, the Azure Dragon Empire had a few sect master level experts, and a venerable in the dark. How could they be a match for Spirit Transformation Realm? So why didn't Primordial True Monarch leave in a hurry and establish a sect here? This made Ling Han puzzled. Not to mention that they couldn't leave. Spirit Transformation Realm Niufang could send Niu Jianhua here. Couldn't Spirit Transformation Realm Lord himself have a way to cross the universe? There must be some profit to be made, and the profit is very big enough to make them take the risk. Ling Han murmured. It must be a peerless cultivation method, such as a sect master level grimoire, or even a venerable or saint level, or a peerless immortal plant. It's said that Heavenly Sea Planet's quality isn't high, so it was given to the Chen clan. That's because the immortal plants here are transplanted from other planets, and the highest is only 4 stars. But 2,000 years ago, several sect master level almighty experts walked out of this place. This means that there might be a 5-star immortal medicine here, and the quality of the celestial body might exceed the evaluation. The reason why these spirit transformation perfected lords are staying here is because they want to obtain high-grade immortal herbs. Could there be a mother tree here? A bold idea suddenly flashed through Ling Han's mind. A celestial body could only have one mother tree, but not every celestial body could give birth to a mother tree. There was a very high requirement for the celestial body itself. Logically speaking, the heavenly ocean star could not give birth to a mother tree because the quality was too low. However, the ancestor of the Chun family, Monkey King, and the others had all charged up to the sect leader level. This caused all of this to change. There was one thing that was certain. Over 2,000 years ago, when the Azure Dragon Empire destroyed the Chun clan's empire, they must have searched the entire world, but they didn't find the mother tree or any high-tiered immortal herbs. Is it because the time isn't up yet, so the immortal medicine isn't showing itself? Or perhaps it was not so complicated at all, and the spirit transformation true lords were waiting for the opening of a certain historical site to fish up a fortune before leaving. Ling Han had a headache. He had too little information, and it wasn't enough to piece together the truth. Forget it. It doesn't matter if these spirit transformation true lords are going to fish up a fortune before leaving. I will definitely fish up a fortune before leaving. Ling Han began to walk around the primordial sect. With his current status as a quasi-sect master disciple, no one would dare to stop him wherever he went, except for 3 places. At night, he put on the void beast skin and explored the 3 places one by one. The first place was the spirit spring. The heaven and earth energy here was extremely dense and had turned into mist. If the spirit spring was used to assist in refining elixirs, the effect would be increased by several times or even doubled. Ling Han was envious. This spirit spring could be used to refine immortal pills. Although he hadn't stepped into the path of immortality and didn't have the qualifications to refine immortal pills, the day wouldn't be far away. However, this spirit spring was really little. A spring mouth was only the size of a bottle mouth, and there was only about half a gourd of liquid inside. It would take a long time to produce a drop. Ling Han didn't make a move immediately. He had to take a look at the other 2 places first. However, it wasn't easy for him to enter the second place. There was a foundation establishment stage powerhouse guarding it, who could easily see through his disguise. Ling Han could only go to the 3rd place first. Although there was no powerhouse guarding it, there was a dense array formation flashing, making it impossible to get close at all. Was there a treasure vault hidden in the array formation? Ling Han tried to break it, but this was an immortal path level array formation. It wasn't something he could break with just a few glances. He thought hard and compared it with the things recorded in the void beast skin, trying to find a way to break the array formation. After a night, Ling Han had no choice but to retreat. There was still a lot of time. In the morning, he cultivated as usual, but he rested in broad daylight. His mind was filled with that array formation. He activated his eye technique and saw many things. He would go again at night. After 3 days, he finally had some ideas. This array formation wasn't set up by the primordial true lord or anyone else. It had originally existed. Array master was an extremely rare profession. The power of heaven and earth was incomparably complicated. Without talent in this aspect, one wouldn't be able to grasp a thing or 2 even if they exhausted their entire lives. The people here were all suppressed in the cages. If there was an array master, would they still be imprisoned? Therefore, Ling Han didn't believe that this array formation was set up now. It had existed for a long time, and just hadn't been opened before. This world had experienced too many changes. The power of heaven and earth must have changed drastically, and the array was built on the use of the power of heaven and earth. Therefore, there would definitely be flaws in the array now, and it wouldn't be as perfect as before. I can definitely break it. Another 4 days later, although Ling Han couldn't break the array formation, he ushered in another upgrade in life level. He broke through another 9 apertures, and his cultivation speed increased explosively. I heard that others can only open 1 aperture at a time, but I open 9 apertures at a time. I'm really awesome, Ling Han said to himself without humility. After opening another 9 apertures, Ling Han immediately realized the importance of the enlightenment state. If the speed at which he absorbed the power of heaven and earth in the engravement state was said to be 10, then after opening 9 apertures, this speed became 15, and now it was 20. With this comparison, one could see the impact of the number of apertures on cultivation. Those who broke through after opening only 36 apertures were much slower than those who were at the second and third stage in terms of cultivation speed. Moreover, this was an eternal difference. There's also the hidden aperture, so the difference will be even greater. Ling Han was even more determined to open the hidden aperture. This wasn't just a matter of increasing his battle power, but it had incomparably far-reaching significance. I'll go study the array again. Chapter 3594. A month's time was actually very fast. Ling Han felt a sense of urgency. He had to open the array and leave the archaic sect before the apprenticeship ceremony began. If he really had to become the apprentice of an archaic true sovereign in front of everyone, he would feel extremely disgusted, even if he was only using an incarnation. Therefore, if he really couldn't break the array, he could only dig the spirit spring and run away. There were still 15 days, 10 days, 7 days to the month. Ling Han finally had a major breakthrough. He decided to try it tonight. Late at night, he once again came before the array. He used his eye technique to observe again and nodded. There was originally no flaw here, but the upheaval of heaven and earth has caused a certain amount of damage to the array. Therefore, even if there is no flaw, there is still a flaw. He leaped and entered the array. The light of the array rose, but it did not attack him. Ling Han revealed a smile. His judgment was correct. He was also a little afraid. If he had made a mistake and triggered the array to attack, he could only put on the armor to save his life. Whether he could succeed or not was still a question. Again, he leaped up and stepped forward. The array still did not activate, as if it did not exist. Ling Han activated his eye technique and looked for the place where the power of heaven and earth changed. This was the node, and also the flaw of the array. Step by step, it took him nearly half an hour to finally walk out of the array. In front of him was a small house, located in the center of the entire array. Ling Han gave a light push, and the door opened. Of course, with such a powerful array protecting it, there was still a need to lock it. The house was decorated with night pearls, so the house was not dark at night. Soft light sprinkled down like moonlight. Treasures. Apart from these pearls, it could be said that the 4 walls of the house were bare. There was only a stone table and a stone stool in the middle, and on the stone table was a piece of paper. It should also be animal skin, giving off a thick feeling. Could it be another piece of void beast skin? But it was too small. With hope in his heart, Ling Han walked to the stone table and sat down. Then he looked at the beast skin. He immediately revealed a look of surprise. This was a spirit map that communicated with a type of destructive dark energy. After taking a look, Ling Han felt as though his soul had been sucked into a strange space. There was an incomparably dark energy everywhere. No matter what it attacked, everything would be destroyed. The planes in his body vibrated, as if they were resonating, and also as if they were rejoicing. Ling Han's body trembled, and his soul immediately returned to his body. He staggered and almost fell. What happened? When he saw it, he couldn't help but be overwhelmed with shock, because he had unknowingly used both hands to support himself on the stone table. But now, the place where he was pressing down was missing 2 palm-shaped pieces, and there was an additional layer of incomparably dark energy on his hands. One had to know that he didn't use any secret power at all. With just a press, 2 pieces of the stone table disappeared. What kind of destructive power is this? Ling Han couldn't help but stretch out his hand and press it on the stone table. Wherever his palm touched, the stone table immediately disappeared, as if it had never existed. Is this the power of annihilation? Ling Han was shocked. When did he master that spirit map? It could actually communicate with this destructive, or was it dark, or annihilation energy? With a thought, he dispersed the energy in his hand and looked at the spirit map again. Strictly speaking, he didn't completely master this spirit map. He only learned a little. Being able to draw a part of the destructive energy, let's call it the destructive energy. This thing was really full of destruction. Ling Han continued to watch. and he was once again pulled into that dark space. His consciousness was separated from his physical body, and only when the planes in his body trembled did he wake up again. Then his control over the destructive energy had increased slightly. Strange, it seemed that it wasn't him who controlled the destructive energy, but the planes in his body. Ling Han scratched his head. He was able to break through the 7 transformations, 7 bones, and 7 veins because of the life force of the planes in his body. But now, he had inexplicably controlled this destructive energy, and it was actually the work of the planes in his body. How could he not feel strange? If it wasn't for the fact that these planes and these creatures were all born by him, he would have suspected that he had fallen into the trap of some powerful existence. Even though his soul would always be broken, Ling Han still couldn't control himself, and continued to study this spirit map. After a few muddle-headed times, Ling Han was surprised to find that this spirit map was actually incomplete. It might only be half or even a third. He had learned it, but he was unable to activate the destructive energy to the extreme. Ling Han wanted to put away the spirit map, but he found that this thing couldn't be stored in a spatial magic tool. No wonder this spirit map is placed here. He nodded. It was precisely because he couldn't store it in a spatial magic tool, and the primordial True Lord wanted to study it, so he could only set up a formation to protect it. Therefore, there were tables and stools here for the True Lord to study here. Look at this table and stool. There's no dust on it. It's obvious that the primordial True Lord has been studying this spirit map all this time. In other words, he hasn't mastered this destructive energy yet. Strange, I learned it in an instant. What's so difficult about it? No, I didn't learn it myself. It's my body that learned it, so I naturally learned it. It's as if I was born to know it. Fuck, could it be that this spirit map has something to do with the God's Stone? Ling Han's head was about to explode. A piece of God's Stone could nurture an incomparably complicated Yuan world. This was an extremely strange thing in itself. Then this beast skin, or this destructive energy, was related to the God's Stone, so it must have a great origin. I can't stay here. Ling Han put away the beast skin, stuffed it into his bosom, and left. After stealing such an important thing, he obviously couldn't stay in the primordial sect any longer. This thing could be found with a search. Then let's go. Ling Han made another trip to the spirit spring, took out the spirit spring, and stored it in a spatial magic tool. If he wanted to fill it up again, it would probably take a few years. He left. Ling Han used the void beast skin to quietly descend the mountain. Then, he returned to his original appearance and swaggered out. Xiao. A figure flew down and blocked in front of him. It was an old servant under Niu Jianhua. However, he clearly didn't recognize Ling Han. Uncle, what can I do for you? Ling Han asked with a smile. Go. The old man only swept a glance over Ling Han's body, then waved his hand, looking impatient. Oh. Ling Han nodded and strode away. Wait. The old man caught up again. He looked at Ling Han a few more times and frowned. Your back looks a little familiar. Ling Han didn't bat an eyelid. Uncle, have you seen me before? No. The old man shook his head again. Feeling that he was being overly suspicious, he waved his hand again. Go. Chapter 3596. Don't go, don't go. The silver-haired lowly chased after him. Handsome big brother, what's your name? Ling Han was amused. This little girl matured too early and was too unafraid of strangers. Didn't you think that I might kidnap and sell you? Such a delicate and beautiful little girl could almost be compared to Hunyeo when she was young. My name is Ling Han. He smiled. And you? I'm a great demon king. The silver-haired lowly puffed out her chest. Ling Han chuckled and didn't say anything. Seeing that you want to know so much, I'll tell you kindly. The silver-haired lowly snorted. My name is Tang Yin but my family calls me Little Milk Candy. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. Little Milk Candy, it was quite an appropriate name. Little Milk Candy, why did you run out alone? He asked. Tang Yin immediately put on a wary expression and took a step back. Are you trying to kidnap and sell me? I'm telling you, I'm very powerful. You'll be in trouble. Then she burst into tears. Mommy, I want mommy. The people outside are so scary. They want to kidnap and sell cute, beautiful, obedient, and filial. She thought for a moment and counted with her fingers. Smart, brave Little Milk Candy. Ling Han's face darkened. What was she talking about? No one is kidnapping and selling you, don't worry. He sighed, feeling a headache coming on. You really don't know how to kidnap and sell Little Milk Candy? The silver-haired lowly tilted her head and looked at Ling Han. No. Ling Han shook his head then muttered. You have to be able to sell me. Wah! Tang Yun'er cried again and pointed at Ling Han. You really want to sell me? Woo-woo, I'm so pitiful. She peeled the milk candy and ate it. After chewing, she stopped crying since there were no tears. Then you have to find a better family and have candy to eat every day. Ling Han's face darkened even more. I said I'm not selling, not selling. Tang Yun'er shrugged. How boring. I'm not playing anymore. I think it's quite interesting. Crunch, crunch. She chewed on the milk candy, looking very relaxed. Ling Han was sure that this little lowly was definitely not from Heavenly Ocean Star, but from another star. However, her background should be more powerful, so she came on a shuttle. Did you run away from home? He asked. The little lowly turned pale with fright. How did you know? Did you secretly follow me? Did you want to kidnap me for a long time? She was extremely narcissistic. I can't help it. Who asked me to be so cute, beautiful, obedient, and filial? She forgot her lines again. Smart and brave, Ling Han said on her behalf. Yes, 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 Little Milk Candy is just that outstanding. Little lowly nodded vigorously. You seem to be going in the wrong direction. Weren't you talking about kidnapping and trafficking just now? It's almost time to go back. My family will be worried, Ling Han said. Although Niu Jianhua had been beaten by him the moment he arrived and robbed clean, that was because the latter deserved it. But facing a little lowly who had run away from home, Ling Han naturally could not bear to make a move on her. Tang Yun'er shook her head vigorously, and her beautiful silver hair danced like a fairy. I don't want to. Mom scolded me, Dad didn't help me, and Grandpa isn't here. I want to run away from home, and they are worried to death. Running away from home after scolding? You are usually so spoiled. Ling Han shook his head. How did your mom scold you? I didn't finish eating and Mom scolded me. Dad is even worse, he didn't help me. Little lowly said angrily. Ling Han couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This was a little ancestor. Hurry up, continue to use that shuttle to go back, he said. No, the energy is used up. Little lowly shook her head, and then grabbed the corner of Ling Han's clothes. Uncle, let me be your daughter for a few days. I am so cute, beautiful, well-behaved, and filial. Stop, stop, stop. Ling Han quickly waved his hand. I can't afford to raise you. Little lowly's snacks were all made of golden cloud cow's milk. He couldn't afford it even if he killed her. I prepared a lot of snacks. Tang Yun'er looked proud. Since you are running away from home, how can you not prepare? What she said seemed very reasonable, but why didn't you bring more things like energy blocks? The shuttle would be useless after half the journey. Your spatial artifact is already filled with snacks. Ling Han bared his teeth. If not snacks, then what? Little lowly retorted with a face full of righteousness. All right, you win. Ling Han sighed and said. All right, you will follow me for a few days. When the shuttle can be used again, immediately go home. Although little Loli's brain circuit was relatively strange, she was clearly not stupid. At this time, she did not want to disobey Ling Han. She was secretly proud in her heart. Wasn't it up to her to decide when the shuttle could be used again? Her great dream was to establish a kingdom, and then find many handsome men to line up to feed her. Not good. Ling Han's expression suddenly changed. He sensed several powerful auras approaching. He was just about to put on the void beast skin, but it was already too late. Xiao, only to see 5 figures already appear. Niu Jianhua and his 4 old servants. They were really lingering. Why did they chase after him again? Ling Han knew that they must have been attracted by the commotion caused by the little Loli descending the shuttle. But these people were actually in the vicinity, which still gave him a shock. Young master, it's him. Wang Quan immediately pointed at Ling Han and shouted. He really hated Ling Han to the core, causing him to be insulted by Niu Jianhua in every way, almost doubting life. Meanwhile, Niu Jianhua looked at Ling Han. He was a bit puzzled. His party was attracted by the shooting star, but he didn't expect to so coincidentally run into Ling Han. However, if Ling Han was King Yi, then this guy's appearance here was not strange. Previously, when he descended, didn't this guy also immediately come to give him a beating? If it's really you, you'll regret coming to this world. Niu Jianhua took another look at little Loli, and couldn't help but be startled. How could there be such a beautiful little girl? In theory, foundation-building cultivators had the right to traverse the universe, but with the speed of foundation-building cultivators, it was impossible to reach any star suitable for cultivation, even if they flew until their lifespan ran out. Even if it was him, perfected Lord Spirit transformation had done something to him, and it had taken him almost a year to get here. This little Loli was definitely a real Loli, and not an old monster who could not grow up. So behind her definitely stood a spirit transformation true monarch. Why wasn't it a small realization tier powerhouse? Because Heavenly Ocean Star's level was very low. So how could a sect master level powerhouse take a fancy to it? No, although sect master level powerhouses didn't take a fancy to it, there was no problem at all for their descendants to come here to gain experience. Niu Jianhua couldn't be sure just how powerful this little Loli's background was. He decided to put this matter aside for now, and first figure out Ling Han's true identity. You're called Ling Han? He asked Ling Han. End of chapter. Chapter 3597. Ling Han was calm and composed. He nodded and said, I am. What can I do for you? You're very much like someone, Niu Jianhua said coldly. I'm such a handsome man. There's actually someone who looks like me, Ling Han said in surprise. Pooh! The little lowly immediately burst into laughter. She had never seen such a shameless person. On the other hand, Niu Jianhua's face twitched slightly. Why did he feel enraged when this person spoke? From this aspect, he really was similar to that King Yi. He would rather kill wrongly than let them go. Get him, he ordered. Yes, young master. The four old men looked at Ling Han in disdain. Any one of them was confident that they could deal with a mere enlightening realm cultivator. Therefore, they were all slowly approaching, not anxious at all. Instead, they were putting immense pressure on Ling Han. Ling Han's mind raced. Was he using so close, yet worlds apart to run away? But let's not talk about whether or not so close. Yet worlds apart would be stopped by experts of the immortal path. Even if they weren't, if he successfully escaped, and then used the void beast's skin to wrap his body, what would happen to this little lowly? Would she become his punching bag? You guys want to kidnap the cute, beautiful, obedient, filial and smart and brave little Tang Tang. The little lowly said, trembling. She looked like she had been frightened, but when Ling Han looked at her, there was not the slightest bit of fear in her eyes, but rather excitement. As an expert who specialized in scamming people, Ling Han was 100% sure that this little lowly was going to cause trouble. The baddie has appeared. Summon the dragon god and transform. The little lowly shouted as she jumped. She even struck a very embarrassing pose, but inconceivably, a silver light surged out of her body. More accurately, it was a button that enveloped her. When the silver light dissipated, the little lowly was already wrapped in a set of silver battle armor. Seeing this, Niu Jianhua's first reaction was that this was the second armor he had looted. However, he immediately rejected the idea. This set of armor was completely different. Although it was also silver in color, there were extremely exaggerated and childish patterns drawn on it. He would never wear it even if he was beaten to death. Shameless kidnappers. I'm going to establish a large kingdom and become a great demon king. You can all be my slaves. The little lowly was incomparably excited as she charged out. With the help of the armor, her speed was astonishingly fast. With a bang, she knocked an old man into the air. Amazing! This is extreme Dao power. Young master, watch out! The remaining three old men cried out one after another. The old man who was sent flying also crawled up with blood at the corner of his mouth. He was a Heaven Foundation establishment cultivator, so being hit by the power of the extreme Dao was naturally enough to make him suffer. Niu Jianhua shivered. Firstly, the little lowly's current battle prowess was extremely shocking. Secondly, the little lowly clearly hadn't stepped onto the path of immortality yet. But with the help of the battle armor, she possessed the power of the extreme Dao. What did this mean? The quality of this armor was astonishingly high, far surpassing the two he had. His heart itched a little. If he could obtain it, to what extent would his battle prowess increase? Cauldron forging? But for a person who could casually take out this kind of battle armor, how powerful would the power behind him be? Moreover, could a little girl run out alone? The adults of her family would definitely be nearby. If he forcefully seized it, then he'd provoke the adults behind him, and he'd be out of luck. How could he possibly think that this little lowly was actually a problem child who ran away from home? Let's go, he shouted lightly, and took the lead to leave. He only suspected that Ling Han was King Yi, and offending a mysterious and powerful force for this suspicion was obviously not something a smart person like him would do. Ha 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 ha, now you know how powerful this demon king is, right? The little lowly bounced up and down, appearing extremely excited. Ling Han was speechless. Niu Jianhua could be considered as having an unlucky year. Actually running into such an unreliable, yet incomparably powerful little lowly. Pa! Silver light flickered on the little lowly's body, and the battle armor actually began to flow like water, then turned into a flying shuttle. It changed into the wrong shape, the little lowly mumbled. Then the flying shuttle changed again and it suddenly disappeared. Ling Han looked at the little lowly, and didn't say anything. Were you scared by this demon king's battle prowess? Tang Yun'er said proudly. Ling Han snorted and said, "Who was the one who said that the flying shuttle's energy was already used up?" The battle armor from before was clearly a kind of flying shuttle form. How could it have used up its energy? The little loli stuck out her tongue. Crap, she'd been exposed. She revealed a fawning smile. "Handsome big brother. What are you saying? I don't understand. Hurry up and go back." Ling Han waved his hands. It was better for this problem child to hurry up and go back. If she really provoked a sect master level, or even a venerable level powerhouse, then it'd be a big joke. Not going back. The little loli pouted in a fit of pique. Ling Han said again, but she ignored Ling Han. Truly a little child. Ling Han patted his butt. "Since you're not obedient, I can't be bothered to care about you." He took a step and walked away. After a few steps, Ling Han turned around and saw the little loli following behind him. When she saw him looking over, she hurriedly turned her head away, looking as if she didn't want to talk to him at all. Ling Han walked again, but the little loli still followed closely. "Why are you following me?" Ling Han stopped walking and asked. Tang Yun'er, on the other hand, wasn't angry and said, "Because handsome big brother, you're a good person." What kind of experience was it to be labeled as a good person by a 6 or 7-year-old loli? Ling Han shook his head. "How do you know I'm a good person? Let me tell you, I'm a big bad person. I've killed people, set fires, and sold children." This time, the little loli wasn't afraid at all. She only giggled and said, "It sounds fun. When are we going to kill people and set fires? Killing people will cause blood. I'm scared. Setting fires is fun, and I often do it. It's just that every time I do it, I get spanked by my mother." Ling Han slapped his forehead. This wasn't an ordinary problem child, but a super problem child. What kind of sin did he commit to actually run into such a little ancestor? Sigh. He sighed. Sigh. The little loli also learned to sigh. It seemed like he had been blackmailed. "All right. I'll take care of you for a few days. But you have to get in touch with your family as soon as possible, and let them pick you up," Ling Han said. Right now, he also didn't feel at ease letting the little loli go alone, because who knew where she would fly to? "All right, since you insist on taking care of me, I'll reluctantly let you take care of me for 2 days." The little loli had a very helpless look on her face. "Don't act like you're taking advantage of me." Ling Han only felt a toothache. Hee hee. Tang Yun'er revealed a flattering smile. After walking for a while, the little loli said that her legs were sore and wanted Ling Han to carry her. After walking for a while, she was hungry again. He really picked up a little ancestor. Ling Han secretly regretted it. Why was he so curious before and insisted on seeing what was inside the meteor? "Handsome guy, look at the meteor!" The little loli suddenly shouted. Chapter 3598. Damn, some unknown halo of mine is starting to work again. Ling Han looked up at the sky, only to find that it was really just a meteor, and not another visitor from outer space, which made him heave a sigh of relief. His luck was not so bad after all. 2 days later, Ling Han returned to the imperial city, his head swollen. Tang Yun'er was really a problem child, and she was super problematic. Who knew how much trouble she caused along the way? The silver-haired little loli also seemed very unhappy. Along the way, she wanted to set fire and rob excitedly, but was stopped by Ling Han, which made her too unhappy. She was here to be the great demon king. Ling Han felt that it was necessary to enlighten this little loli. There were so many people in the imperial capital. If this little loli really had fun, how terrible the damage would be. The key was that there was most likely a sect master level power behind her, which would cause huge trouble. "Little milk candy, why do you want to be the great demon king?" Ling Han asked. "Because Grandpa is the old demon king, so I want to be the great demon king," the little loli said while looking around. When she saw someone selling candied haws on the street, she couldn't help but drool. She had never had any resistance to sweet things. Oh, this problem was with the little loli's grandfather. "What did your grandfather do to be called the demon king?" Ling Han asked again. The little loli giggled. "Grandpa calls himself the heavenly demon, and he specializes in making enemies of those who claim to be righteous. When he was young, He captured mini saintesses and slept with them. Now they have all become my grandaunts. Ling Han couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This child was indeed precocious, and her maternal grandfather had actually slept with the holy daughters of the various great sects as his wives. Yet he was still alive and well. Just how powerful was he? My mother is my grandfather's only daughter. My mother is too bad. She secretly ran away from home when she was a child and entered the sect where my father was. The two of them loved each other very much, and they had an adulterous relationship. The little loli took a few skewers of candied haws by herself. Ling Han broke out in a cold sweat again. This little loli liked to use idioms, but she was just randomly using them. How could she describe her parents like that? Furthermore, this little loli's tendency to run away from home is actually hereditary. Wait, how old was your mother when she left home? About 15 or 16 years old. The little loli bit on a candied haw while counting her fingers, which reminded Ling Han of second baby, who counted idiots. Ling Han heaved a sigh of relief. That was more normal, unlike this little loli, who was completely acting out of spite. He paid the money, which made the little loli very unhappy. He was the demon king. How could he give money to eat? Ling Han laughed heartily. Don't worry, the capital is full of rich playboys. When we have time, I'll take you to fight them one by one. Wow. Wow. The little loli put the candied haws in her mouth and clapped her hands. The little devil king is here. Are you afraid? Ling Han brought the little loli to the Foreign Affairs Department. The little loli grabbed the corner of Ling Han's clothes with one hand, looking a little scared. Damn, she was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Ling Han began to regret bringing the little loli back to the capital was most likely a very wrong decision. Hey, what a beautiful little girl. Xianyuan Dingwa happened to walk out and said without thinking, You've got an illegitimate daughter after a trip outside. I'm not a beautiful little girl. The little loli hurriedly corrected him. I'm a beautiful, cute, obedient, filial, smart, and brave little candy. Xianyuan Dingwa was stunned. After a while he said, Ling Han, this little girl can't be an old monster in disguise, right? You're an old monster. How am I old? The little loli was very dissatisfied. She pointed at Xianyuan Dingwa and shouted, Super lightning cannon. Level 1 ready, level 2 ready, fire. Bang! A beam of light rushed out of her palm, at an astonishing speed, and hit Xianyuan Dingwa in an instant. Fuck you. Xianyuan Dingwa didn't even have time to dodge. He let out a miserable shriek as he was sent flying by the beam of light, crashing heavily into the wall. Crack, crack, crack. The wall immediately began to crack. Fortunately, it hadn't collapsed. The little loli giggled and became harmless again. She obediently ate the candied hawthorn. Ling Han did not stop her. The power of the cannon was only at the level of the secret-seeking realm. It was not enough to kill Xianyuan Dingwa. It was good to let this guy suffer a little, so he would not dare to provoke the little loli in the future. Dad! After a series of shouts, 7 children ran out. After such a long time, their size had not changed at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The little loli could not help but open her mouth, even forgetting to eat the candied hawthorn. So powerful. So many children at once. Ling Han, I underestimated you. Finally, she looked up at Ling Han and said, Underestimated me? Ling Han looked at the little loli and did not ask further. His intuition told him that it was not a good thing. Princess Bai Xiao also came out. When she saw that Ling Han was safe and sound, she breathed a sigh of relief. When she saw the little loli again, her beautiful eyes could not help but brighten. She had never seen such a beautiful little girl before. She was like a fairy carved from jade. Are you jealous that little milk candy is prettier than you? The little loli giggled. Ugly, you can only think about it. Princess Bai Xiao's face immediately darkened. This little girl was beautiful, but her mouth was too sarcastic. Don't be rude. Call me big sister, Ling Han reprimanded. Tang Yun'er pursed her lips. She looked very reluctant, but still said, Ugly big sister. Fine, you might as well not call me that. Where did you find this child? Princess Bai Xiao asked. She was also full of curiosity. Didn't Ling Han go to participate in the martial arts competition? Why did he bring a child back? I said that he fell from the sky and I picked him up. Do you believe me? Ling Han said with a smile. Princess Bai Xiao only chuckled, and even rolled her eyes at Ling Han. All right, I know you don't believe me. Tang Yun'er, on the other hand, became interested in the 7 milk babies. She chattered with the 7 milk babies. No one knew what she said, but they seemed to have already become good friends. Ling Han gritted his teeth. The 7 Calabash brothers were not easy to deal with. Together with the little lowly who wanted to see the world in chaos, their destructive power had increased by tons. However, these little girls could not be locked up, so he could only watch over them. Has anything major happened these days? Ling Han asked Princess Bai Xiao. Yes. Princess Bai Xiao nodded. Right now, all the major forces are expanding their territories, forming a super force led by the 9 Spirit Lord and the other 3 Spirit Transformation realms. The remaining sects have all submitted to them, and they have almost divided up the world. According to the scouts, these forces have been sending people to search. They seem to be looking for something. Chapter 3600. Bam! The shuttle directly hit the ground and immediately caused terrible damage. With the shuttle as the center, a huge pit appeared on the ground nearby, and the energy waves were still spreading into the distance, and the flames were monstrous. Ling Han was speechless. He rubbed the little girl's head and said, "Can you be more reliable? How could you fall asleep during the landing?" The little lowly's eyes were hazy, and saliva was still dripping from the corner of her mouth. "Don't be noisy. I want to sleep. If I don't sleep well, I'll be stunted." Yes, not only did his dermic armament shatter, without the little but he was also shot by a little lowly. He could not open the shuttle at all. Dodge here and there. At this moment, just thinking about a black object suddenly appeared on the window of the flying shuttle. What the hell? Ling Han was shocked. Enough. This thing actually had eyes, little lowly, and it was glaring angrily at him. Little
band
Loli
that
shot a
patted
few
the
more
window
beams
of
of
the
light
flying
before
shuttle
stopping
and
reluctantly.
opened its mouth.
After
As if
fiddling
it was
with it
saying
for a while,
something.
she said,
However,
"It's done."
the flying shuttle
Ling
was
Han
shuttling
said,
through the starry
"Friend,
sky.
I'm really sorry.
Of course,
We didn't mean
it was
to hit
airtight
you."
and sound could
That
not be
person said
transmitted.
unhappily. Otherwise,
Even if you
Ling
didn't
Han
mean to,
and the
you
little
still
Loli
hit
would
so
have been dead
accurately.
long ago.
What a deep
Oh,
resentment.
so it was a person.
But this was really a
but
pure
his face was
coincidence.
covered in soot.
Look,
Ling
when
Han
little
could
Loli
only
went
see
to
that the
heavenly
man's
ocean
mouth was
star.
open.
She also
he
hit him
didn't know
head
what
on.
he was saying.
Ling
In
Han
short,
looked
he
at
must be
Tang
very
Yuan.
angry.
Did you hit me
Although
on
his
purpose
face was
back then?
black, he could
No.
still see it from
Little
his
Loli
expression.
hurriedly shook her
Looking
head,
at the other
looking
party's
very
posture.
innocent.
It
Ling
seemed
Han
that
was
he
full
wanted
of
him to go
suspicion.
out and fight
This
him
girl's
one-on-one.
words should be
Ling Han
discounted by
shrugged,
30%,
indicating that there was
then how are
nothing
you
he
going
could
to
do.
compensate
This
me?
naturally
The
made
victim
the man
outside
even more
asked.
furious.
Ling Han
He
smiled.
no longer used his
We don't
hand
have
to
money,
slap the shuttle,
so we can only
Instead,
say sorry.
He took out a
That
sword
person
and
was
slashed
almost
at the
angered
shuttle
to death.
However,
Is this the
that
attitude
person
you
had
used to solve a
obviously made a
problem?
grave mistake.
We really
The
don't have
flying
money.
shuttle was
Little
definitely
Loli
a
added.
secret treasure
Are the
of the
adults
sex
and the
master
children
level.
both stingy?
It was just that it was
person
limited by the
speechless.
little Loli's strength.
Moreover,
So
he
it could
couldn't
only
do anything
unleash
about
the
this
power of
flying
the extreme
shuttle-dermic
path.
artifact.
However,
It seemed
now
like he
that
could
there was
only
no one to
swallow this
command
loss,
it,
and it was
Ling
being
Han
attacked.
gestured to little
It
Loli.
possessed even more
Little
terrifying
Loli opened
might.
the flying
With
shuttle,
the slash of the
and
sword,
the two of them jumped
the vein
down.
patterns
The
on the
person
flying
opposite
shuttle
didn't
lit up,
make a move,
and the person's
although he
sword
could
was
see at a
immediately
glance that
shattered.
Ling Han
Damn,
and little Loli
that
hadn't
person
set
was
foot on the immortal
flabbergasted.
path.
Then,
To be able
he
to
looked at
possess
Ling
such a
Han with a
flying
face
shuttle
full of
dermic
bitterness
artifact,
and hatred.
their background
bastard.
must be
Not
incomparably
only did
shocking.
you smash him with
Sorry,
the flying
I really
shuttle,
didn't mean to hit
you
you.
even sat there
Ling
and
Han
didn't come
smiled.
out.
That
You
person
deliberately
sighed,
mocked me,
although he was
causing
hit
me to
head
break
on
another
because of
magic
Ling
tool.
Han and little Loli.
Damn it, damn it, damn
He
it.
was the one who
Ling
caused
Han
the
made a
dermic
helpless
artifact to
expression.
shatter later.
This had nothing
So
to do with him.
speaking,
Noisy,
the other party
little
didn't do
Loli
much
woke
wrong.
up.
She was
Forget it,
woken
I'm
up
just
by the sound
unlucky.
of the man
He was
knocking
quite
on the window.
open-minded. She
Ling
immediately
Han
looked
said,
at the man
"I'm
with
Ling
a bitter
Han,
expression.
and this is Tang
How dare
Yuan.
you interrupt
How
my
should I
sleep?
address you, brother?
Don't you know that women
That
don't
person
sleep
took
well?
out a sweat
Their
towel
skin
and
will
clean water.
deteriorate. She was
As
a
he
little
cleaned
beauty.
up, he said,
But in the
"I'm Li
future,
Xingchen.
she would become
So
a
it's
great
brotherly
beauty and bring
Ling Han
disaster
cupped
to
his
the
hands.
world." Li
I'll beat you
Xingchen
to
had
death,
already
you
cleaned up
bastard.
his face.
She was enraged
When Ling Han
and
controlled the
Loli
shuttle
saw
to
him,
attack
they both
that
said,
person.
"Oh,
This
Xiao,
dark-skinned guy
beams
was
of light
actually a
shot
pretty
towards
boy.
that person."
TSK,
However,
they really couldn't
if she were
tell.
to personally
Little
control
Loli's
it,
eyes instantly
the power
lit up.
of the flying shuttle
so
would
it's a
be much
handsome
weaker.
guy. Handsome
Hence,
guy.
that
Do you
person
want some
could
candy?
completely wander
She
around
took out a milk
freely.
candy,
However,
and shook it in
he was
front of Li
completely
Xingchen.
unable to
Li
retaliate
Xingchen's face couldn't
because
help
he
but
had already
darken.
tried it earlier.
I'm not a 3-year-old
When the
kid.
artifacts
You
slashed
actually
onto
dare
the
to
flying
trick me
shuttle,
with candy? It only shattered on
don't
its own.
bother with this little
Right now,
brat. That
Ling Han
person's
laughed.
heart was definitely
Brotherly,
filled with a
I
myriad
have
of
something
emotions.
to ask you.
How
Li
wrong he
Xingchen
was.
wasn't in a
He
good
was
mood.
cultivating here.
But who
You
would have
guys
thought
hit
that
me
a
and
meteor
caused me
would
to
come
lose a
crashing
dermic
down on his
artifact.
head?
And
Because
you
it was a
actually want to
crucial
ask me
moment in
about
its
something?
cultivation.
No way, I
His
won't do
reaction
it.
was a beat
Handsome
slower.
guy,
You
and
have
as
to
a
think
result,
carefully.
he was hit head
Little
on.
Loli patted
Fortunately,
the flying
his
shuttle with her
strength was
hand,
tyrannical,
overflowing
he was only
with the
covered in
intention of
dirt.
threatening him.
When he was about
Li
to
Xingchen
angrily
was
denounce
speechless.
him, the
Are
result
you really
was
a
good.
kid? You're too precocious. He sighed and said, "What do you want to know?" It was mainly because he found Ling Han pleasing to the eye. Otherwise, he could just turn around and leave. As a cultivator of the immortal path, would he be afraid of 2 mortals? The place where the power of the 5 elements is the densest. Oh, you want to refine the 5 elements fortune pill? Li Xingchen immediately reacted. Ling Han glanced at little Loli. Fortunately, although this girl was unreliable, she didn't deliberately trick him out to play. Yes. He nodded. End of chapter. Chapter 3601. Bam! The shuttle directly hit the ground and immediately caused terrible damage. With the shuttle as the center, a huge pit appeared on the ground nearby, and the energy waves were still spreading into the distance, and the flames were monstrous. Ling Han was speechless. He rubbed the little girl's head and said, "Can you be more reliable? How could you fall asleep during the landing?" The little Loli's eyes were hazy, and saliva was still dripping from the corner of her mouth. "Don't be noisy. I want to sleep. If I don't sleep well, I'll be stunted." Yes. Ling Han sat there. Without the little Loli's control, he could not open the shuttle at all. At this moment, a black object suddenly appeared on the window of the flying shuttle. What the hell? Ling Han was shocked. This thing actually had eyes, and it was glaring angrily at him. Bam! That thing patted the window of the flying shuttle. Not only did his dermic armament and opened its mouth, but he was also shot by a little Loli. However, the flying shuttle was shuttling through the starry sky. Just thinking about it made him so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood, and sound could not be transmitted. Enough. Otherwise, Ling Han persuaded little Loli would have died long ago. Can you talk to him? Oh, little Loli shot a few more beams of light, but his face was covered in stopping reluctantly. Ling Han could only see that the man's mouth was open. But he didn't know what he was saying. Ling Han said, "In short, friend, he must be very angry. We didn't mean to hit you." Although his face was black, that person said unhappily. He could still see it from his expression. Even if you didn't mean to, at the other party's posture, so accurately. It seemed that he wanted him to go out and fight him one-on-one. But this was really a pure coincidence. Ling Han shrugged, indicating that there was nothing he could do. This naturally made the man even more furious. Ling Han looked at Tang Yin his hand to slap the shuttle. Purpose back then? Instead, he took out a sword and slashed at the shuttle. Shook her head. However, looking very that innocent. Person had obviously made a grave full mistake. Of suspicion. The flying shuttle was definitely discounted by 30% master level. Then how are you going to compensate that it was limited by the little victim outside asked. So it could only unleash the power of the extreme path. We don't have money, so we can only say sorry. Now that there was no one to command it, was almost angered to death, and it was being attacked. Is this the attitude you used to solve a problem? Might. We really don't have money. The sword, little the vein patterns on the flying shuttle and the children both stingy, and the person's sword was immediately shattered. Moreover, that person was flabbergasted about this flying shuttle dermic artifact. He looked at Ling Han with a face full of bitterness and hatred. This loss. You bastard! Ling Han gestured to little Loli. Smash him with the flying shuttle. Opened the flying shuttle. You even sat there and the two of them jumped down. You deliberately mocked me. The person opposite didn't causing me to break another magic tool. Although he could see at a glance that Ling Han and little Loli hadn't set foot on the immortal path. This had nothing to do with him. Such a flying shuttle dermic artifact. Little Loli woke up. Their background was woken up by the sound of the man knocking on the window. Sorry, I really didn't mean to hit you. She immediately looked at the man with a bitter expression. That person sighed. How dare you interrupt my sleep? Although he was hit head on, don't you know that women don't sleep well? Their skin will the one who caused the dermic artifact to shatter later. But in the future, so strictly would become a great beauty. The other party didn't do much wrong to the world. Forget it. I'm just unlucky. To death, you bastard. He was quite open-minded. She was enraged and controlled the shuttle to attack that person. And this is Tang Yin. How should I address you, brother? Towards that person. That person took out a sweat towel and cleaned water. If she were to personally control it, as he cleaned up, he said, the power of the flying shuttle would be much weaker. So it's brotherly. Hence, that person could completely wander around freely. Li Xingqian had already cleaned up his face. He was completely unable to retaliate. Because he had already tried it earlier. Oh, when the artifact slashed onto actually a pretty boy. It only shattered on its own. Couldn't tell. Right now, little Loli's eyes person's heart was definitely filled with a myriad of emotions. Handsome guy. How wronged he was. Do you want some candy? He was cultivating. She took out a milk candy, but who would have thought that a meteor would come crashing down on his head? Li Xingqian's face couldn't help but darken. It was a crucial moment in his cultivation. I'm not a 3-year-old kid. His reaction was to beat me with candy, and as a result, don't bother with this little guy. Fortunately, his strength was tyrannical. I have something covered in dirt. Li Xingqian was about to angrily denounce him. The result was good. You guys knocked me down and caused me to lose a dermic artifact. And you actually want to ask me about something? No way, I won't do it. Handsome guy, you have to think carefully. Little Loli patted the flying shuttle with her hand, the threat overflowing from her words. Li Xingqian was speechless. Are you really a kid? You're too precocious. He sighed and said, What do you want to know? It was mainly because he found Ling Han pleasing to the eye. Otherwise he could just turn around and leave. As a cultivator of the immortal path, would he be afraid of two mortals? The place where the power of the 5 elements is the densest. Oh, you want to refine the 5 elements fortune pill? Li Xingqian immediately reacted. Ling Han glanced at little Loli. Fortunately, although this girl was unreliable, she didn't purposely trick him out to play. Yes. He nodded. Chapter 3602. Li Xingqian looked deeply at Ling Han. and then said, "You really deserve praise for your courage. However, collecting 5-element crystal elements will take an incomparably long time. So you'd better be mentally prepared and set a time limit. I've heard that there was once a genius who spent several hundred years to refine the 5 elements good fortune pill. By the time the pill was refined, he was already old and not far from death. In the end, he ended up benefiting others." Ling Han nodded. "Thank you, Brother Li, for the reminder. I'll remember." Li Xingchen gave him a map. It was not made of paper but an artifact. Infusing it with psychic power, one would enter a 3-dimensional space. Mountains, rivers, seas, everything appeared vividly. "I'll give it to you. It's not worth much anyway," he said. Was he mocking Ling Han's stinginess? Ling Han was thick-skinned and pretended not to hear. He was indeed poor now and had a low level. What could he offer to compensate the other? He did have something, but it was too precious. "Brother Li, I owe you a favor," Ling Han said seriously. He would not come here only once, but by the second time, he would be on the path to immortality. He might even be at the casting cauldron and Dan-forming realm. Li Xingchen waved his hand. "Don't. I'm giving you this map to end the karma between us. From now on, pretend you've never seen me. I don't want to run into you again." With that, he sprang up and ran. Ling Han glanced at the little girl, and the little girl looked back at him. They pointed at each other at the same time. "It's all your fault. You scared him away." After saying this, the two of them laughed loudly. Ling Han was thick-skinned, and this little girl's skin was definitely not thin either. Ling Han released the 7 milk babies, and the 9 of them moved together according to the map. The place where they landed was very coincidental. It was only a mere 2 days' journey away from the first place where the power of the 5 elements was the densest. Of course, this was calculated with Ling Han's speed. It was a valley of boiling flames called the Valley of Extreme Flame. In the Extreme Flame Valley, there were many fire creatures created from the essence of fire. They were born because of the Extreme Flame Valley, but they were also bound here, never able to leave. 2 days later, the 9 of them arrived at the place. What a powerful heaven and earth suppression! The little lowly immediately cried out. "I can't even use my Dharma artifacts. Only at the worldly realm can be displayed here." Second baby activated his eye sorcery to take a look. The suppression of the forces of heaven and earth has formed a natural array formation. That's not necessarily true. It's possible that it's man-made, but it must be a grandmaster of arrays. Ling Han nodded. It was precisely because of this that the 5 elements crystal essence became so precious. No matter how high one's realm was, they could only be used as a combat force in the mystery-seeking realm. They could not improve their efficiency at all. Of course, a saint or ancestral king might be able to ignore the suppression of the power of the world. But which saint or ancestral king would do such a thing? Besides, how many saints are there in the world? The ancestral king was an invincible great emperor that only appeared once in an era, so it was even more impossible. "That's good too. I don't have to worry about anyone harming me in the valley," he said with a smile. "Hit someone." Robbery. The little lowly and the 7 milk babies all raised their arms and cheered, looking extremely excited. Ling Han slapped his forehead with his hand. Was it really the right decision to bring them out? They continued forward, and the suppression of the world grew stronger. It felt like an invisible shackle had been placed on their bodies, but they did not have any substantial change. This was because only those above the celestial path would be truly restricted. They were too weak, and the suppression could be ignored. The Extreme Flame Valley was very big. Before entering the valley, they could already see the scorched earth all around them. It was mainly black, but from time to time, red flames could be seen jumping and flashing. A person appeared in front of them. He staggered over, and when he saw Ling Han's group, he looked pleasantly surprised. He stretched out his hand and said, "Water, water, I want water." Ling Han's gaze swept over, and could not help but be shocked. This person was too skinny, as if he was just skin and bones. His eyeballs were about to fall out. He took out a water pouch and handed it over. The person hurriedly drank it after receiving it. The pouch of water was quickly emptied, and the effects were immediately apparent. His shriveled face became rosy again. However, a strange thing also happened. Steam rose from his body, and very quickly, his face became shriveled again, as if all the water had evaporated. Water! I want more water! The person shouted at Ling Han. Ling Han shook his head. This was clearly useless. This person's body should have a powerful flame burning. No matter how much water he drank, it would only evaporate. It would not solve the problem at all. I said, give me water, the person roared. His eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. Boom! He pounced out and swung his fist at Ling Han. Ling Han casually shook his hand, and the person was sent flying. Below the celestial path, how many people were still his match? Ah! The person screamed. Boom! His entire body turned into a ball of raging flames burning fiercely. Very quickly, he was burnt to a crisp. Ling Han, he only asked you for some water. You didn't have to burn him to death, even if you didn't give it to him. The little girl shook her head and then pondered. Murder and arson, so it means arson to burn someone to death. Ling Han's face darkened. I didn't kill that person, and I didn't set him on fire. The little girl rolled her eyes at him. Haha, I'll believe that he spontaneously combusted. Second baby used his eye sorcery to take a look and said, this person has a strong essence of fire in his body. He couldn't suppress it just now, and it exploded from inside out. He instantly burned himself to death. Ling Han nodded and said, look, this is what you call a professional. Learn from him. Second baby laughed. Of course, I can't rule out the possibility that father did it. Fuck this bunch of idiots. It seems that this extreme flame valley is really a very dangerous place. Ling Han said, that person should have collected the essence of fire in the valley, but in the long battle, his body was slowly eroded by the fire poison, and he finally burned himself to death. I'm not afraid, fourth baby said. This place is really comfortable. I hate it. Fifth baby's face was full of disgust. One of them was of the fire attribute, while the other was of the water attribute. They were two completely different feelings. Let's go. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can call it a day. Ling Han brought Milk Baby and the little girl into the valley. Instantly, he saw many fire creatures wandering in the valley. Some of them were in the form of beasts, such as mountain goats, tigers, and leopards. Some were in the form of humans, and some were in the form of birds. However, they could only fly a short distance in the air. These fire creatures seemed to have a fixed area of activity and would not cross the boundary. Therefore, even when Ling Han and the others appeared, not a single fire creature attacked them. When Ling Han took a few more steps forward, he saw a fire tiger suddenly pounce on him. Bang! Ling Han destroyed it with a punch, and a spark appeared on the ground. Chapter 3604. In such a dangerous place, it was very normal for people to kill each other. Since he had sensed that someone was chasing after him, he would definitely make the first move to gain the upper hand. In Extreme Flame Valley, killing and robbing others of their flame essence was a very common thing. Why would there be a reason? Now that Ling Han had asked this, he didn't know how to answer. He thought for a moment and said, "Little brother, we are on the same side. I also saw the Nanyang Pang family's bounty notice, so I came here to collect flame essence. We are all here to make a living. What happened before was also a misunderstanding." "Nanyang Pang family," Ling Han murmured. He grabbed the man and said, "Be more specific. You don't know?" The man was surprised. "Pa," Ling Han slapped him on the head. "Am I asking you, or are you asking me?" The man gritted his teeth. This hit hurt. But when he saw Ling Han's cold eyes, he could only tell the truth. This Nanyang Pang family was a very strong family. In the past, they had produced a spirit transformation perfected sovereign. But after this ancestor died, the Pang family declined generation by generation. Now there were only a few life core experts left. But a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The Pang family was still very rich. And in this generation, the Pang family had produced a genius called Pang Yunfei. In order to raise this outstanding descendant, the Pang family spared no expense to refine the 5 elements fortune pill for Pang Yunfei. Thus they put out a bounty. As long as one collected enough 5 elements essence, they could exchange it for all kinds of treasures. For example, immortal items, immortal medicines, cultivation methods. As long as one had enough 5 elements essence, they could exchange for them. When the news spread, it naturally attracted many people to the 5 elements land to collect 5 elements essence. Oh right, other than the Pang family, it seems that the Luo family is also collecting 5 elements essence. The man thought for a moment and squeezed out another piece of information. 2 forces were competing with him for business. Ling Han thought for a moment. Fine, others could rob him, so why couldn't he rob others? There was strength in numbers. In this case, he might only need a few years, or even a year to refine the 5 elements fortune pill. Ling Han patted the man's shoulder. "Hand over the flame essence." "That little brother, haven't I already apologized to you?" the man said with a bitter face. "Flame essence or life. Choose one," Ling Han said calmly. Just now, this person had launched a sneak attack with the intention of killing him. Now, he was just trying to rob him. How broad was his heart? The man had no choice but to hand over the flame essence. "Oh, that's quite a lot. How long have you been here?" Ling Han asked. 2 years. 2 years? Ling Han shook his head. From the looks of it, the other party's harvest was pitifully small. "You're too lazy. You only managed to get this much in 2 years. The man was speechless. His efficiency was already very high. The flame beasts had fire poison on their bodies, and after a long battle, they would definitely be infected with a trace of fire poison. They had to refine it, or else the fire poison would accumulate and cause serious consequences. It was not impossible for them to be burned alive. "Scram, don't let me see you again." Ling Han casually flung the man backwards. He didn't pay him any more attention and continued walking. After a while, a new flame beast appeared. Naturally, it would be killed with a single punch. Ling Han had seen people being burned to death by fire poison before, so he naturally wouldn't be unprepared for it. However, he could kill his enemies with a single punch. Under the attack of the destructive energy, even the fire poison could be easily destroyed. He didn't have to worry about being corroded by the fire poison. As a result, even if someone with similar strength came in, they wouldn't be able to compare to him in terms of efficiency. The more he killed, the more shocked Ling Han became. Just what was the origin of this destructive energy? It was too terrifying. After circling this side cave once, Ling Han once again returned to the main cave and continued to advance. There was more than one person here. Clearly, the bounty offered by the Pang clan or the Luo clan had been effective. Ling Han hadn't even taken a few steps before he was ambushed again. Just like before, he would capture the person, beat them up, and then loot their flame essence. Why didn't he kill them? There was another purpose, and that was to provide wool. If he encountered these people again in the future, he could rob them again and treat them as free labor. After circling all the side caves, Ling Han also robbed more than a dozen people, increasing his harvest dramatically. With the addition of 7 milk babies, he might be able to complete the flame crystal essence step in a few months. He wasn't worried about the milk babies at all. They were all sly and had extraordinary strength. They were the ones who tricked others. After walking for a while, he finally arrived at the bottom of the main cave. Previously, he had robbed many people and obtained some useful information. For example, there was a flame king in every cave. Its strength was far stronger than ordinary fire creatures, and it provided more flame essence. Sometimes, it would even drop something like a fire essence stone, which could gather the power of heaven and earth and speed up cultivation. This was very similar to an ice essence stone. Of course, not every flame king would drop a fire essence stone. It depended on luck. However, no one dared to have any ideas about the flame king. Firstly, the flame king's strength was too strong, and it could sweep through the mystery-seeking realm. Secondly, the flame king could also detonate the fire poison in a martial artist's body. Even if the amount was not enough to kill, how could they withstand such torment in battle? Therefore, everyone only dared to farm monsters in the side caves. As for the main cave, no one dared to ask. Of course, Ling Han wasn't afraid. On the contrary, he was in high spirits. He hadn't cultivated in the past 2 months, so he could use the power of the fire essence stone to catch up with his cultivation. He stepped into the last area of this cave. This was a very large cave, and there was a huge flame monster floating back and forth. In every corner of the cave, there were white bones scattered. Obviously, it wasn't that no one challenged the Flame King, but most of them probably lost their lives. The Flame King also discovered Ling Han at the first moment, and immediately raised its hand. Xiao, the fire halberd in its hand, shot toward the little lowly. "Ah, save me!" Tang Yin'er screamed. Ling Han punched out. Pung, the fire halberd instantly shattered. The little lowly was furious. She pointed at the Flame King and said, "Flamehead, why are you hitting the cute, beautiful, obedient filial, a little milk candy?" The Flame King naturally wouldn't pay attention to her. His hands had already condensed another fire halberd, and this time, he threw it at Ling Han. Ling Han punched out again to neutralize the attack, but the Flame King condensed a third fire halberd and threw it over. This attack was really urgent. If it weren't for Ling Han, anyone else might not even have the ability to fight back, and would have been shot to death. Ling Han humphed. "You're not done yet." He opened his mouth and spat out a golden sword, slashing at the Flame King. "You think you can?" Xiao. The golden sword slashed past, and the Flame King didn't dare to be careless. He waved his hand and raging flames raged. Chapter 3605. The Flame King slapped the golden sword away, but the flame on its hand also dimmed. Evidently, resolving this attack was not as easy as it looked. Handsome charge. The little girl cheered for Ling Han. He actually dared to sneak an attack on her. How despicable. Ling Han naturally would not allow anyone to attack him. Furthermore, if he attacked from a distance, he would not be able to unleash the power of the destructive energy. He rushed out, wanting to fight the Flame King in close combat. The Flame King was completely fearless, and it also slapped over. Bang! Flames and darkness collided. Both were high-level energies, but even though they were high-level energies, there was a difference in intensity and quality. As the black energy surged, the flames instantly faded. The Flame King was shocked. Its incredibly simple brain only had battle instincts, and it knew that this was disadvantageous to it. The red-clothed youth hurriedly smiled faintly, but half of its arm had already the completely dimmed, and there were no longer any flames burning. Pang Shu stared blankly. This human was so scary. He didn't know what to say. It reached out its other hand reply, and forcefully pulled at its dimmed left arm before saying, "Bang! This arm was torn off, in charge of but it was only for an instant." All the
Flame
flame
burned
essence you
fiercely,
collect must be
and its
handed
broken
over to
arm
me.
immediately
I
grew
will
out
record the
again.
quantity for
However,
you.
if one
And you can go
observed
to the
carefully,
Pang family to
one would
exchange
notice
for
that
what
the
you
flames
need.
on its body
Oh,
were
this guy
slightly
thinks
dimmer.
I'm an employee
Evidently,
of the Pang family.
it had to pay a
Ling
price
Han
for
said
its
in his
broken
heart.
arm to regrow.
Also, malicious
This ability
competition
would
is not
definitely be
desirable,
envied by countless
said Pang
martial
Shu.
artists.
Pang Shu
Because
continued,
regrowing a broken
return
limb
all the
was an
flame
ability
essences
that
only
you stole and
venerables could
compensate
possess.
for some of the losses.
If one became a saint,
then we'll let this
even
matter
a drop
pass.
of blood could be regrown.
Seventh young master Pang
and the
is still
tenacity
fair.
of their life
The
force
others
was
simply
praised.
terrifying.
Kid, Ling
Did
Han
you
was
hear
also
what seventh
shocked,
young master
but he
Pang
immediately
said?
rushed out
Quickly
again.
return the flame
This time,
essence you
he would
stole.
kill the Flame
In
King as
compensation,
easily as crushing
it doesn't
dry
have to be
weeds and
much,
smashing
just
rotten
double
wood.
it.
Not
These people
giving it any
clamored.
chance to
The
recover.
source of their
The Flame
confidence
King was
naturally
truly
came from
afraid
Pang
of this
Shu.
human.
He was a
It reached out
foundation
its finger
establishment
and
expert.
pointed at Ling Han.
Even if the realm was
wanting to
suppressed
detonate
here,
the fire
a
poison
foundation
in his body.
establishment expert,
However,
was still
it
much
immediately
stronger
revealed
than
a
a normal
dumbfounded
secret realm
expression.
expert. Because there were
Hey,
no
hey,
flames
what are you
boiling
shouting
in Ling
for?
Han's body.
There isn't even
there
a
should be
single
some
handsome
guy
guy
here.
here.
Don't
However,
you feel embarrassed?
Ling Han had
Little
previously
Lolita
killed
said
his
with
enemies with one
dissatisfaction.
punch.
What was
And
wrong
with the
with these
sweeping
people?
destructive energy,
There wasn't even one
what kind of
handsome
fire
guy among
poison
them
could
could
invade
people.
his body?
It was too
Since
embarrassing.
it was the null fire
Ling
poison,
Han smiled.
how could it detonate
Are you
it?
the person in
The
charge
Flame
of the
King
Pang
did not
family
believe
here?
it.
Of
And
course,
pointed at Ling Han
Pang
again.
Shu said proudly.
But there was still
He
no
looked down on
effect.
everyone here.
Fortunately,
there was a
couldn't speak.
difference between
If it was
immortals and
pointing
mortals,
and shouting,
but in
the
order
scene
to
would be
complete
even
the
more
mission,
awkward.
he had to
Holy
be
crap.
present.
Is this
Which
human a
naturally
monster?
made him very
The
unhappy.
Flame King had a
Ling Han rubbed
constipated
his
expression
hands.
on his face.
Then you must have
He
a
was
lot
going
of flame
crazy.
essence on
Ling
you.
Han laughed
Wait,
out loud
why
and
did
punched
that sound
again.
so awkward?
The Flame King
Pang Shu
hurriedly
was
parried,
surprised and frowned.
but the destructive
What do
energy
you want?
corroded. Ling Han
And everywhere
laughed.
it touched,
Robbery.
the flames dimmed.
Flame essence
It was
could
strong
not be
enough.
taken out of the valley.
Ordinary flame
So
monsters
Pang
were
Shu must
destroyed
have a
with
lot of it
single
on
punch.
him. Pang
But it
Shu
only
was stunned
stunned
at
a little,
first, then laughed.
It was worthy of
This
its
young
name
man
as a
was really
king.
crazy.
But so what?
He actually
Ling
said he
Han
wanted to
followed
rob
up with
him
a few more
when he
punches,
laughed.
and
The
others
Flame King
naturally
was like a
laughed as
bonfire
well.
that had been
They all
doused
looked
with
like
water.
they had met an idiot.
Very soon it was
too
completely
funny.
extinguished.
A small secret
Hang up.
realm dared to
Ling
threaten
Han's
a foundation
foundation
establishment expert,
and he could not help but
if
sigh.
they knew that Ling
There was
Han
only
was
flame
actually at the
essence and
enlightenment
no fire
realm,
essence
they would be
stones.
even more
Forget it.
surprised.
It's
Ling
just that
Han
I
did
did
not
not
get
get
angry
angry on the cake
and laughed with the others.
Besides, there are so
Pang
many
Shu
caves
suddenly
here.
stopped
I'll have to
laughing
look
and said
elsewhere.
coldly.
When he reached
Don't
the
think
exit,
that you can be
he
arrogant
immediately
just because you
sensed
have
that there
some
were many
strength.
people outside.
It's just a secret
He
realm.
robbed a dozen people, and
He
now
looked
they're
at
here
Ling
for
Han,
revenge.
feeling a little
Hee hee.
strange.
Ling Han was
this really a
completely
secret realm?
unconcerned. Cultivation was suppressed
If
here.
they were in the
So
outside
even
world,
if an elite of
he
the
would be able
celestial
to
path
see through
came,
Ling Han's
he would still
background
be
with a
unafraid.
single glance.
He would still
But
be able
now
to
that
crush
his
him.
cultivation
He
level
strode
had been
out
suppressed
and saw about 20
his
people
eyesight had
standing
also
at the
weakened
entrance,
considerably.
led by a
He only
26
felt
or
that Ling Han was
27-year-old
slightly
red-clothed
unusual,
youth, but could not tell what it was exactly. Of course you can be arrogant if you have strength. Ling Han rushed out and punched. Pang Shu showed a look of contempt. A small secret realm dared to attack him? Good. Kill one to warn 100. Just as he was about to attack, he felt a huge pressure coming at him. It was as if a primordial terror beast was pressuring him, causing him to be scared out of his wits. With this shock, his movements suddenly slowed down. Bang! Ling Han punched, and Pang Shu was smashed to the ground. His face was deeply smashed into the dry and cracked ground. At this moment, the whole place was quiet. Not a single sound could be heard. Chapter 3606. That was Pang Shu, a foundational cultivator. Yet he was knocked to the ground by a single punch. How could they believe it? These people had all been taught a lesson by Ling Han, and knew he was powerful. But to be able to knock out a foundational cultivator with a single punch was something they could not accept. So powerful that it was unreasonable. Pang Shu struggled to get up. It wasn't that he was no match for Ling Han, but that he was intimidated by the killing intent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been knocked down by a single punch from Ling Han. However, he had only gotten up halfway when a foot stomped heavily on his back, forcing him back down. He knew it was Ling Han. Damn it, a tiny secret-seeking realm dared to step on his head. You must be tired of living. If this wasn't the Valley of Extreme Flame, he could kill Ling Han with a single breath. Ling Han smiled. Where's the fire essence? Hand it over. Pang Shu ignored him. If he was threatened by Ling Han, would he still have the face to see others? Bang! Ling Han didn't care that the other was a foundational cultivator, and immediately threw a punch. Not just a foundational cultivator. Even if a spirit transformation cultivator came, he would beat him up. After a few punches, Pang Shu became obedient, and obediently handed over a box. Ling Han opened it, and saw more than half a box of fire essence. So shabby. He shook his head and put in the fire essence he'd collected. It was more or less a box. The crowd didn't know how much Ling Han had gained in one round, and thought he'd robbed others. Naturally, they were all jealous and angry. Ling Han looked around and smiled. What, you want to gang up on me? Go 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 kill him. Pang Shu roared. He didn't believe they couldn't take down Ling Han, with so many people working together. Everyone looked at each other, and rushed forward. 20 people against 1. Could they still lose? Ling Han smiled faintly, and suddenly unleashed a murderous aura attack. Instantly, everyone stiffened slightly. He then unleashed his thunder-light fists, and his fists rained down like rain. Pung pung pung, the figures were instantly sent flying like straw, and fell to the ground. In front of him, ganging up on someone was not possible unless the other could withstand his killing intent. Ling Han put away the box and said coolly, If you want revenge, bring it on. I won't leave until I get the fire essence. Hee, next time, we'll have to find someone more powerful. The little lowly made a funny face, then grabbed onto the corner of Ling Han's robe, and followed him to another cave. At the scene, there was a wave of wailing, but Ling Han did not hit them too hard. In a short while, everyone had crawled back up while gritting their teeth. Only Pang Shu was still lying there. This guy had been hit hard by Ling Han. Anyways, you're not going to enter the cave to fight monsters. So what's the point of keeping you in good condition? 7th young Master Pang. Everyone hurried to help him up. Pang Shu was lifted up, his face a bloody mess. His face had been stomped into the sand, so it was only natural that his skin had been scraped. His face was ashen. Not only had he been defeated in the secret-seeking realm, but he had also been publicly humiliated and robbed of the Pang family's 3 years of hard work. How could he endure this? Pang Yunfei was the Pang family's genius and future. Whether or not the Pang family could return to its former glory would all depend on him. That was why every member of the Pang family was willing to sacrifice for Pang Yunfei. Only when the family was strong would they be able to go out with confidence. The 5 elements fortune pill was incomparably important and could not be lost. You guys continue to collect the fire essence. I'll find someone to suppress this kid, he said darkly. He was practically going crazy with anger. All right. Everyone could only nod, hoping that the Pang family wouldn't renege on their debt. After all, the fire essence they had handed over had already been recorded. If it was stolen, it was Pang Shu's problem. Pang Shu left. This place suppressed one's cultivation, so it was useless to rely on one's realm. They had to find a genius who was invincible in the same realm. If it's nearby, the Zhang family's 4th son, Zhang Qihua, is a 1-star genius. All right, let's find him. Ling Han believed that his speed would be much faster than the 7 children. Thus, he didn't wait outside. Instead, he decided to sweep through another cave. He swept through the caves one by one before finally going to find the Flame King. Destructive energy surged, and the Flame King was easily killed. This time, besides the fire essence,
There was also a fire essence stone. Haha, I'm rich. Ling Han laughed. He returned, and when he came out of the cave, he found that eldest baby, second baby, and third baby were already waiting outside. When he asked, he found out that they hadn't been out for long. After a while, fourth baby, fifth baby, and sixth baby also came out one after another. Except for seventh baby. Seventh baby was not affected by any power. Logically speaking, she should be the strongest among the 7 children, but with her narcolepsy, it was a different story. The little girl must have fallen asleep in some corner of the cave. Sigh, it was better not to let her go next time. The children's luck was also mixed. Only second baby and fourth baby each obtained a fire essence stone. The others only obtained the fire essence. Ling Han estimated that they would stay here for at most 2 months, and they should be able to gather a piece of fire crystal element. So fast. Didn't they need to wait for 100 years? Firstly, Ling Han and the others had 7.5, so the 7th baby was too unreliable. Secondly, the strength of 7.5 of them was too strong. The milk babies all had innate divine bodies and grasped powerful special abilities, so they were not afraid of fire poison. Once Ling Han's destructive energy was unleashed, even the Flame King would instantly surrender. This was the reason why they could be so efficient. Otherwise, the others would need to refine the fire poison after fighting for a while. Otherwise, they would be burned to ashes. In fact, most of the time was wasted on dispelling the fire poison. Ling Han was in a very good mood. He thought that he would have to fight here for a year or 2. But now it seemed that 2 months might be enough. The efficiency had increased by 10 times. Coupled with the fire essence stone, when he returned to Heavenly Starry Sky, he could be sure that he would already be in the Foundation Establishment realm. He whistled as he fought the monsters one by one. After the flame monster in the cave was killed, it would take about 5 days for it to be reformed by the heaven and earth. As for the Flame King, it was much slower. At least until now, no new Flame King had appeared. 10 days, half a month. It seemed that the Flame King would not appear again. On this day, Ling Han had just walked out of the cave when he saw a youngster sitting cross-legged on the ground in the valley. There was a sword lying across his lap, and around him, there was a bright flame essence that formed a circle. At this moment, a flame monster condensed out of thin air, not far from the young man. When it was completely formed by the world, it immediately floated toward the young man and launched an attack. Swish! The sword light flashed, and the flame monster was immediately cut in half. The flame was immediately extinguished, leaving behind a little bit of shining fire essence. Strong.
Chapter 3608. Zhang Qihua retreated and left the battlefield. He sheathed his sword and said, "I'm not your match." When he said that, his face was black. But as a genius, if he didn't even dare to admit the difference, then he had no right to improve. However, Zhang Qihua was still full of confidence. His cultivation was only suppressed. If they fought again at the Foundation Establishment realm, he definitely wouldn't be inferior. That was because his battle strength was ranked 29th in the younger generation, maybe even higher. The leaping celestial door could turn a genius into a mediocre person. But it could also make a mediocre person even more mediocre. Ling Han nodded. This youth was really not weak, and he could be considered open and aboveboard. This made Ling Han feel less hostile towards him. Zhang Qihua stretched out his right hand and used it as a knife to chop his left arm. There was a crisp sound, and his left arm instantly drooped down. It was obvious that the bones had been broken. Cold sweat flowed down his forehead. "The next time we meet, I hope you will have entered the celestial path, and we can have a good fight." Ling Han was shocked. He had actually planned to let him go. But Zhang Qihua really had a personality, and directly cut off his left arm. This kind of person was worth befriending. He nodded and smiled. "Okay, next time we meet, let's spar. Here." Ling Han threw out a bottle of pills. Zhang Qihua caught it and looked at Ling Han in shock. "Medicine," Ling Han said. Zhang Qihua nodded and revealed a smile. He directly poured out a pill and swallowed it, showing his strong trust in Ling Han. "Pretty boy, be careful that it's poisonous," the little girl said. She was someone who wished for the world to be in chaos. Zhang Qihua didn't care about her at all. He just nodded at Ling Han. "We will meet again." He jumped out of the valley. When he was about to leave, he spoke again and slowly floated over. "Be careful of the Pang family. They will definitely ask others to help." Ling Han smiled. This Zhang Qihua was really quite interesting. "Little girl, you'll feel uncomfortable if you don't speak." He looked towards the little loli. Yeah, the little loli licked the milk candy. Unfortunately, that guy didn't fall for it. "Let's go." Ling Han pulled the little girl into another cave. Ling Han fought monsters every day. Every morning, he would cultivate under the sun, holding a fire essence stone in his hand. Heaven and earth energy surged into his body, promoting his cultivation base. After so many days, his cultivation had also improved rapidly, and he had opened another 18 apertures. In theory, he could already break through to the secret-seeking realm. Of course, Ling Han wouldn't do that. He still desired to open his hidden acupuncture point, so his path to the enlightenment state would be extremely long. He was collecting more and more fire essence. It was said that once the amount of fire essence reached a certain level, it would naturally condense into fire crystal essence without needing to do anything. It should be about time. At most, it will take another 10 days. Ling Han smiled. These days he had been fighting with fire monsters. Although he wasn't afraid of fighting, he would also develop aesthetic fatigue if he kept fighting with the same opponents. He would be able to leave this place soon. After fighting for so many days, sometimes Ling Han didn't pursue efficiency. When he fought with the Flame King, he didn't use destructive energy. Instead, he fought head-on and fought to the death. He even deliberately suffered some fire poison to train himself. This way, even if he broke through immediately, he wouldn't have the flaw of having an unstable foundation. Here, Ling Han had become the publicly recognized overlord. Everyone would avoid him when they saw him. He and the 7 milk babies were too efficient in killing monsters. Even with the size of this valley, the number of fire monsters wasn't enough. There were often no monsters to kill. But what could they do? Who dared to steal monsters from Ling Han? This made everyone complain. How were they going to survive? At this moment, the Pang family finally made their move. When Ling Han walked out of the cave, he saw a young man standing in the valley. He looked to be about 24 or 25 years old, and was dressed in azure. His hair was as black as ink, and he exuded a divine light. Ling Han! That young man looked at Ling Han, his gaze like a divine light that could cause one's skin to crack. Yet another powerful expert. Ling Han looked back and asked, "And who are you?" The azure-robed young man walked over with large strides. Boom! Blood energy surged from his body like a terrifying beast. You aren't qualified to ask for my name. I'm here to kill you. Fuck. Ling Han's expression immediately darkened. You're courting death. As expected of Lei Jiujuan. How domineering. That's a genius of the Lei family. He's ranked 19th among the younger generation of Anhua County. Young Master Lei is here. This time he's definitely in the bag. We can finally kill this malefic star. Otherwise, we'll have to fight flame monsters here for decades. Just thinking about it makes me want to vomit. This time, there were many spectators. After so many days, they had all been holding back their anger. They all wanted to see Ling Han killed, or at the very least driven away. Lei Jiujuan strode over. He couldn't unleash the power of a Foundation establishment cultivator, but he was still very powerful in the mortal realm. His blood energy surged like smoke, like a great furnace that could incinerate everything. Do you have any last words? He asked. Handsome big brother, do you want some milk candy? The little loli came over. This Lei Jiujuan's appearance was not bad, and she was already drooling. Go to the side. Ling Han picked up the little loli and used a gentle force to send her to the side. He then looked at Lei Jiujuan. I only have 2 words for you. Hee. Ridiculous. Lei Jiujuan leaped out. Boom, he had cultivated a secret art. As he leaped out, lightning flashed behind him, pushing his speed to the extreme, like a bolt of lightning. Ling Han snorted and waved his right hand. Xiao, the heavenly pattern jade, shot out. Under the activation of psychokinesis, its speed instantly soared to 14 times the speed of sound. Lei Jiujuan's speed was already extremely fast. Facing the heavenly pattern jade at 14 times the speed of sound, it was naturally impossible for him to dodge. However, he didn't care. So what if it was a hidden weapon? He could send it flying with a punch. As expected, he waved his hand and slapped the heavenly pattern jade. Bang! His hand slapped the heavenly pattern jade, and his expression changed immediately. Such terrifying destructive power. Such a small thing was actually so heavy, and with the addition of 14 times the speed of sound, how could he block it with his current cultivation of the secret-seeking realm? Instantly, blood splattered, and his right hand was directly smashed. But even so, the heavenly pattern jade's momentum was not stopped, and it smashed heavily into his lower abdomen. Ow! Lei Jiujuan staggered backward, his face first turning pale, then dark purple. He knelt on the ground, holding his lower abdomen with both hands, cold sweat rolling down his face. The people nearby were originally cheering for him, but when they saw this scene, all of them stopped abruptly. How could this be? That was a genius of the Lei clan. How could he kneel in one move? Chapter 3609. Lei Jiujuan, the genius of the Thunder Army, could be ranked in the top 20 of the younger generation in Anhua County. Such a genius was actually defeated in a single move. How is that possible? Who can accept that? Ling Han strode over. Lei Jiujuan was already powerful enough to survive a strike from the heavenly rune jade. Moreover, Lei Jiujuan was too careless. Otherwise, he wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. Ling Han, you're too ruthless. You've broken Handsome Gui's hand. He doesn't want it to be a cripple, cried the little girl. Ling Han ignored her and stared at Lei Jiujuan, his killing intent locked onto him. Lei Jiujuan wasn't Zhang Qihua. Zhang Qihua didn't try to take his life from the start. Moreover, this person was open and aboveboard. Ling Han naturally didn't have any killing intent. He didn't even plan to cut off his arm. But Lei Jiujuan was different. Whoever wanted to kill him, he would kill them. It was a matter of course. Feeling Ling Han's cold killing intent, Lei Jiujuan couldn't help but shiver. He was originally shouting in pain, but now he suddenly stopped and looked at Ling Han. You're so ruthless, he said through gritted teeth, his voice filled with hatred. One of his hands was crippled, and it was his right hand at that. It was enough to cripple a third of his combat strength. Although the Lei clan was extraordinary, it was impossible for them to obtain the sacred medicine that could regenerate flesh and bones. In other words, he would forever be a cripple. Ling Han smiled. Don't worry, you don't have to worry about becoming a cripple in the future, because you'll lose your life soon. You actually want to kill me? Lei Jiujuan's face was filled with shock. Bam! Ling Han punched out, directly turning Lei Jiujuan into dregs. He knew that Lei Jiujuan would definitely say some threatening words, such as which family's young master, which sex Dao child, or that he had a powerful cousin. But does he care? After refining the 5 elements fortune elixir, he will return to Heavenly Sea Star, and you can take your time to find him. You're in big trouble, someone said in a trembling voice. That's the young master of the Lei clan, the most anticipated member of the Lei clan. If we kill him, the Lei clan will be overturned. You should know that the Lei family's strength is no weaker than the Pang family. Now that Lei Jiujuan died, because of the Pang family will probably go crazy. I'm dead. I'm definitely dead. Will we be implicated? Everyone was extremely pessimistic. They could only watch helplessly as Lei Jiujuan was killed. If the Lei family were to vent their anger on them, they would definitely be in trouble. Ling Han picked up the heavenly rune jade. There was no way he was going to explain anything to these people. He continued to farm monsters. After about 9 days, the 7 milk babies gathered again and put the flame essence together. Something strange happened. These shiny things fused together, as if they were alive. A moment later, a scarlet bead appeared in the box. There seemed to be a flame dancing in it. Ling Han reached out and touched it. Hissed so hot. He closed the box. It was made of jade, so he didn't have to worry about burning it. Alright, the trip to Extreme Flame Valley was a success. It was time to go to the next place. Ling Han took out the map Li Xingqian gave him, and quickly determined the next destination. Frost Lake. This was the closest to Extreme Flame Valley, so Ling Han arranged it as the next stop. But before the 9 of them left, a group of people walked in. 1295. Second baby started counting. The corner of Ling Han's mouth twitched slightly. Although second baby had the best eyesight, he couldn't have any expectations when it came to counting. He took a look himself. There were a total of 17 people, and every one of them exuded the confidence of an expert. They were at least on the path to immortality. Ling Han, how dare you? You actually dared to kill the Qilin son of the Lei clan. A middle-aged man shouted at Ling Han. Naturally, there was an air of superiority about him. This was natural. He was a Foundation establishment cultivator, so he didn't need to be polite to a small secret-seeking realm cultivator. Ling Han's eyes sharpened. Since you know this demon king's name, why are you here to die? Ling Han, don't steal my nickname. Little Lolita was dissatisfied and immediately protested. I'll borrow it for now. I'll return it to you later. Ling Han turned his head and smiled. That's more like it. Little Lolita stopped making a fuss and continued to lick the candy. The 17 people were infuriated. These two people were too arrogant. They actually dared to look down on these experts. No need for nonsense, take them down, someone said impatiently. Wasn't it a joke to waste time with the secret-seeking realm cultivator? All right, take them down and execute them as a sacrifice to Jujuan. Another person nodded. Ling Han snorted. You think you've got me? A small secret-seeking realm. These 17 people were the allied forces of the Lei and Pang clans. They knew that no one was a match for Ling Han in a one-on-one fight. Even Lei Jujuan was killed, so they joined forces to attack. Originally, they were waiting outside. After all, entering the valley would mean that their cultivation would be suppressed, so it was better to wait outside. However, Ling Han didn't come out after a long time. Thinking that he was also farming fire essence crystals, he would have to stay inside for a few years. That was too long, and they couldn't afford to wait. Oh, the prodigy of the Lei clan was killed, and they had to wait for a few years to take revenge. Wouldn't they be a joke? Therefore, even if they had to sacrifice a few people, they had to enter the valley and take down Ling Han. The Pang clan was tied up this time. They couldn't escape from Lei Jujuan's death, so they naturally couldn't stay out of it. However, 17 Foundation establishment cultivators, even if their cultivation was suppressed, should be enough to suppress a small secret-seeking realm. Ling Han revealed a dense killing intent. Since you guys want to die, then I'll fulfill your wish. Kill. 17 people charged over at the same time. Ling Han faced them head-on, directly circulating his destructive energy, and threw out a heavy punch. Bang! Someone faced him head-on, wanting to restrain him, so that others could take the opportunity to attack. However, under the destructive energy, that person was immediately blasted into pieces. This destructive power was too terrifying. In just a single exchange, 17 people became 16 people. Damn, when the experts from the Pang and Lei clans saw this, they couldn't help but reveal a look of horror. They knew that Ling Han was very strong, or else he wouldn't have been able to kill Lei Jujuan and defeat Zhang Qihua. But killing a Foundation establishment cultivator with one punch still shocked them to the point that their scalps went numb. Didn't that mean that as long as Ling Han threw out another 16 punches, they would all be finished? Since Ling Han had started killing, how could he hold back? Using his destructive energy, he already had plans to silence them. Kill. Bang. 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 His figure moved, and the destructive energy surged. Even if the opponents were prepared and also used high-level energy, the stronger ones would still have an arm destroyed, and the weaker ones would still not be able to escape death. In just a few moves, the 17 people had already been reduced to 9 people. This caused everyone to be scared out of their wits. How could they still care about killing their enemies? They hurriedly turned around and ran. Chapter 36:10. As long as they could escape the valley and recover their strength, suppressing a secret realm would be a piece of cake. But when they turned around, they found that their escape route was blocked by 6 milk babies. Eldest baby said, "I opened this road." Second baby said, "I planted this tree." Fourth baby said, "You have to pass this road." Fifth baby said, "Leave your life." Third baby said proudly, "Childish." The Foundation establishment cultivators were going crazy. They had fallen to the point where even milk babies dared to bully them. You're courting death. They naturally had nothing to fear and charged forward. Then tragedy struck. None of the milk babies were easy to deal with. Pung. 2 of them had their legs grabbed by the eldest baby and were sent flying back. The second baby saw through the other person's weakness and sent him flying with a light punch. Whoosh. The fourth baby spat fire, and the fifth baby spat water.
Oh no, it's too fast,
making
we
it
can't
impossible
stop.
for anyone to take another step
said.
forward.
You're too
The
unreliable.
first wave of attack by the
Prepare to
9 was
land
in
hard.
vain. The
None
little
of them
lowly
managed
shouted.
to break through.
Although she was
Monsters,
very anxious,
these people were
she
all
didn't
monsters.
sound panicked at all.
The Pang and Lei
Instead,
clansmen were
she
on
was
the
full
verge
of
of
excitement.
tears.
What
You're
was
doing
wrong
this
with
on
them?
purpose,
Why
aren't
did
you?
they have to rush
Boom.
into the valley
Before Ling
Their
Han could
realms
say
were
anything,
suppressed here. The flying
making
shuttle
it
had already
impossible for
landed,
them to use
and
their
it crashed
powerful
heavily
strength.
into the ground.
But they had no
Under
time
the
to
powerful
lament,
push,
because
the
the
god
still
of
moving
death was
forward.
already here.
After a full
Ling
10
Han caught up
seconds,
with them,
the flying
his
shuttle
destructive
finally
energy
stopped.
surging, Haha,
killing
perfect
efficiency
landing.
was too
The little
terrifying.
lowly said
He
excitedly.
could sweep through those
You
of the
damn
same
child.
realm.
See
And
if I
even
don't
those
beat
who
you
were
to
a realm
death.
lower.
Ling Han
After
gritted
another
his
round
teeth.
of slaughter,
What kind of
the
problem
9
child
people were
was this?
reduced to 5.
Bang, at this
I
moment.
surrender, don't kill
A hand
me.
suddenly slapped
Someone
the window
immediately
of the
gave
flying
up.
shuttle.
They had no
and
choice
then a
but
black
to give
face
up,
also
or they would
appeared.
die.
This
Coward
scene seems
die.
to be very
Ling Han
familiar.
showed no mercy.
Ling Han
and killed
remembered
the
that when
person
they
with
first
one
arrived
punch.
at Moonlight
I
Planet,
won't surrender.
the little
The
lowly
remaining
also
3
drove the
decided to
flying
do the
shuttle
opposite
and hit the ground.
Okay, then let's
In
fight.
the end, she hit someone.
Ling Han did not stop
Fortunately,
attacking.
Li
Damn
Xingqian
it,
was in
you
the
can't play
Foundation
like
establishment
this.
realm.
The 3 wanted to cry
Otherwise,
but had no
he would
tears.
definitely be killed
They had
by
surrendered.
such a hit.
Why didn't he stop?
Now she hit someone
Bang.
again.
After
Ling
a
Han
few
looked
punches,
at the angry face
the remaining
outside
3
the
were
window
all killed.
and muttered in his
Ling
heart.
Han naturally
Although
would not
the face
waste
was
it.
black,
He searched
whether it was
everyone's
the
body,
expression or the
but
action,
the result was very
why
little.
was it so familiar?
What kind of
Could
foundational
it be that they
powerhouse
hit
is
the
this?
same person?
So poor.
Ling Han immediately
right.
shook his head.
This is Moonlight
How could this
Star,
be possible?
where the martial
It was
arts
too
environment
coincidental.
is mature.
He didn't dare
Although
to be
the Foundation
careless.
establishment
While asking the
realm is
little
on the
lowly
path
to
to
put away the
immortality.
flying shuttle,
That's all.
he prepared to
There
fight.
are many people
Who knew
stronger
if the
than
other
them.
party was
So
easy
naturally,
to talk to.
they won't
It
have
was
any
true
treasures.
that they were in the wrong.
Forget it.
But it didn't
I
mean
should
that
hurry
they
up
had to
and
be
refine the
beaten.
5
The
elements
little
fortune
lowly
pill.
directly armed
Ling
the flying
Han
shuttle
and his
on her
group
body
left the valley
and prepared to fight.
Of course, she was
There
the
were
great
no more
demon
people
king.
from the Pang
Bumping
or
into
Clan
someone
outside.
was nothing in her
They had all
eyes.
gone in to capture
Sure
him.
enough, it's you guys
The little
again.
lowly took
The
out her
black
flying
person
shuttle
on the opposite
and
side
they boarded
said
it
through gritted teeth.
Xiao, the flying shuttle
a corner
pierced
of
through
Ling
the air.
Han's mouth
You won't
twitched.
hit someone again,
Brotherly.
right?
What
Ling
a
Han
coincidence.
saw that Tang
The
Yen
unlucky
had pushed
guy
the
who was
shuttle
hit was
to at
Li
least
Xingqian.
20 times the speed of
Strange.
sound.
I didn't hit your
And
head
he
with
couldn't
the
help but
tombstone
break out
fragment.
in a cold
Why
sweat.
are you so unlucky?
Under such high
Ling Han
speed,
couldn't help
even
but
his
laugh.
eyesight couldn't
Brotherly.
catch the changes in
If
the
I
environment.
say that we didn't hit
and
you
it
on
was very
purpose,
easy to
would
hit
you believe
someone.
me?
Don't
Li
worry.
Xingqian gritted
This
his
shuttle
teeth
has
and
been
said,
strengthened by
"Do you think
Grandpa
I should
and
believe
Grandpa.
you?
It won't be
You should."
damaged. Ling Han
The
said
little lowly
righteously.
said,
Ling Han's
"Brotherly,
face is
we
black.
didn't install any
Is he
tracking
worried about
device
the
on your
shuttle?
body.
He's
How
afraid
could
that
we
you'll
hit you
kill
on
someone.
purpose? However,
So all of this
if
was
the
a
shuttle wasn't
coincidence.
damaged,
Li
he could breathe
Xingqian
a sigh
sighed.
of relief.
I always
At
felt
least
that
he
you
wouldn't
were
be
an
killed by
unlucky
the
star.
little lowly.
Sure enough.
Wait,
When
I
did he get
deliberately
led
hid
astray
in
by
such
the
a
little
remote
lowly?
place?
Isn't
But
it
I
too
didn't
immoral to
expect
think
that I
like
still
this?
couldn't avoid
Ling
you.
Han weakly
He.
reflected on himself.
The little lowly laughed
If they were
until
to
she was
travel on
holding her
foot,
stomach.
it would take about 3
Brotherly,
days to
here is
arrive.
a 1-star artifact.
But if they were to travel
Take
by
it as
flying
compensation.
shuttle, it would only
Ling
take
Han
about
took
half
out a
a
sword
day.
and handed
The
it
frigid
over.
water lake
This
was
was what
already
he
near.
obtained after killing Lei Jiujuan.
Because he was killed in an instant, Lei Jiujuan didn't even have the chance to take out his artifact. It couldn't be helped. He had almost killed the other 2 times, so Ling Han was also very guilty. He really felt very apologetic. Li Xingqian couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Although a 1-star artifact was nothing in a large force, it was extremely precious to a rogue cultivator, especially a Foundation establishment rogue cultivator. What was more coincidental was that he also used a sword. So he couldn't refuse this gift, and could only accept it with a thick face. He sighed. Even if you hit me again in the future, I'll accept it. How is that possible? Ling Han hurriedly laughed, but he was a little suspicious. With this guy's bad luck, it was really possible that he would be hit again. Li Xingqian's temper also subsided. They sat down to drink some wine and eat something. It turned out that Li Xingqian had come here because he had found a seclusion place nearby. It used to belong to a strong cultivator who had reached the Foundation establishment stage. That strong cultivator had died long ago and might have left behind some treasures. He had been invited to join forces to enter this place. Chapter 36:12. Both of them were very young. One was dressed in blue, the other in purple. Both of them were very young. One was dressed in blue, and the other was dressed in purple. Both of them were very young, but when they stood there, they gave off an intimidating aura. Qian Sunlai, you couldn't beat me when you were in the Human Foundation establishment stage, and you couldn't beat me when you were in the Heaven Foundation establishment stage. Now that you've returned to the mortal realm, you're still no match for me. The young man in blue said proudly. He held a sword in his hand that was overflowing with light and color. It possessed a fierce might. The purple-robed young man called Qian Sunlai snorted. Rosie, my ranking is lower than yours. Is it because I'm weaker than you? It's just that your luck is good. That's why you're ranked higher than me every time. Rosie shook his head. Keep being stubborn. Watch how I teach you a lesson. You think I'm afraid of you? Qian Sunlai said fearlessly. But before that, We need to get rid of a fly. Rosie looked towards Ling Han. Neither of them had looked at Ling Han before. But that didn't mean they hadn't noticed Ling Han. Tang Yun had already entered the gourd. Although her telekinesis was far superior to her peers, it couldn't compare to Ling Han's. She couldn't hold on any longer. Meanwhile, Qian Sunlai was already striding toward Ling Han. He held a black saber in his hand, which was covered with veined patterns, and exuded a ferocious might. Scram! You aren't qualified to observe our battle. Ling Han had originally planned to recover his telekinesis after reaching the ice island. There weren't any water elemental creatures here, but he had to be willing to leave. You're chasing me away? Why? Did your family build this ice island? Ling Han asked. Qian Sunlai was taken aback. Of course not. It was naturally formed. But don't you know who I am? Even if it was built by your family, does this frigid water lake belong to you? You'll be fined for building an illegal building on public land, Ling Han said. Qian Sunlai was dumbfounded. What was going on? Ha 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 ha, Rosie laughed loudly. Because of the ranking issue, he and Qian Sunlai have been enemies for a long time. Now that he saw his old rival being fooled into a daze, he felt very happy. Qian Sunlai's face sank, and he said, Must you suffer a bit? He strode over, the blade of his saber dragging on the ice island. Sizzle sparks flew. In fact, the ice island was extremely sturdy and could completely withstand the battle of ordinary secret-seeking realm experts. However, the top of the island had been flattened by the two of them. Their strength was indeed terrifying. Naturally, this was because they had used high-level energy. Otherwise, the secret-seeking realm would not have been able to cause damage to this iceberg with brute force alone. Ling Han crossed his arms in front of his chest. What, you want to fight? Do you think you're worthy? Qian Sunlai sneered. He was ranked 9th amongst the younger generation of Anhua commandery. In a battle of the same level, there were at most 5 people who were stronger than him. Of course, this ranking would not be strictly based on the battle strength of those at the same level. So he was confident that his true battle strength was definitely not the 9th. Even if he was only ranked 9th, this unfamiliar young man in front of him could not compare to him. The difference was too great. Ling Han stretched his neck limbs and smiled. I'm a bit bored in the water, so I'll use you to relieve my boredom. Qian Sunlai's thick brows rose. This guy really wanted to die, daring to provoke him like this. That's right, this guy doesn't even know who I am. No wonder he's so full of confidence. I'll let him see what a top-tier genius is like. Get down. Qian Sunlai reached out with his left hand. Boom! A terrifying power surged out, suppressing Ling Han. Ling Han casually slapped out. Bang! Qian Sunlai's attack was neutralized. Qian Sunlai and Rosie were both stunned. This scene had exceeded their expectations. Even if Qian Sunlai had not used his full strength, Ling Han's strength was not to be underestimated. If you could have this kind of strength in the Foundation establishment realm, you would have the qualifications to be ranked in the top 100. Qian Sunlai gave his evaluation. Unfortunately, you're only in the mystic-seeking realm. With a single leap from the immortal gate, you might just fade into mediocrity. Even mediocrity can beat you up, Ling Han countered. He charged forward and punched out with both fists. Boom, boom, boom. The power of his punches surged out in an extremely domineering manner. Qian Sunlai revealed a cautious expression. He did not use his blade, and instead put it away. Instead, he used his palms to deal with Ling Han. What a joke. He was one of the few geniuses in Anhua commandery. If he needed to use an immortal tool to deal with a nameless nobody, how shameless would he be? After exchanging a few blows, Qian Sunlai frowned. This opponent was unexpectedly strong. Fortunately, his opponent did not seem to cultivate telekinesis, and did not use any high-level energy. Although his battle prowess was strong, his lethality was limited to brute force. Qian Sunlai only needed to use the transform technique to deal with him. This was only natural. Ling Han had only surfaced after using up most of his telekinesis. Although he could still use it for a while. Wasn't there another person on the other side? He naturally had to hold back some of his trump cards. The best steel should be used on the edge of the blade. If he used his telekinesis, he would definitely be able to communicate with the destructive energy and directly kill the two of them. Even so, Ling Han used his eye technique and easily saw through the flaws in each of Qian Senlai's moves. Very quickly he gained the upper hand. Qian Senlai did not panic in the slightest. Instead, he laughed loudly. "Brat, I don't know why you're so strong, but you don't cultivate telekinesis, so your battle prowess is at least halved. I'll let you see just how strong the mystic-seeking realm can be," he exclaimed softly, and his palms immediately turned silvery white. This was also metal energy, and it was extremely likely that it was of a higher level than the metal energy that Ling Han had drawn upon. The way it was arranged was also different, which was why it appeared silver. Boom! Qian Senlai swung his palm, and the silver light was dazzling. Ling Han still met it with his bare fists. Bang! The two of them exchanged a blow, and both of them took a few steps back. Traces of blood appeared on Ling Han's fist. The destructive power of the high-level energy was too great. Moreover, the spirit diagram that Qian Senlai had mastered was very extraordinary, and its power was even greater. Fortunately, Ling Han's bones had been tempered to be extremely hard, so it was only a superficial wound. Looking at Qian Senlai again, he was not much better off. The web between his thumb and forefinger had actually split open. Why? Ling Han used a high-frequency attack. He could not possibly maintain his original battle prowess while you used high-level energy, right? "I've really underestimated you," Qian Senlai said solemnly. He had really given his all in that attack just now, but he could only fight to a draw with Ling Han. His opponent's strength was truly extraordinary. At least in the mystic-seeking realm, his opponent already had the qualifications to compete with him. The smile on Luoshi's face also disappeared. He also felt the pressure. If Ling Han could maintain his level during the Spring Immortal's Gate, then this person would definitely become a strong competitor for them. More importantly, his opponent was already so powerful when he did not know how to communicate with high-level energy. What would happen if he learned the magical use of telekinesis? Chapter 36:13. Qian Senlai looked at Ling Han solemnly. He put away the last trace of contempt. Although in the outside world, he could crush Ling Han with a single finger, in this place, he was a formidable foe. He took a deep breath and got into an attacking stance. 3 elements floating wind palm. Luoshi blurted out in shock. This was one of Qian Senlai's ultimate moves. He did not expect him to use it so soon. Ling Han did not let his guard down. Qian Senlai was exuding a powerful aura, as if he could push back the sky with one palm strike. This was an immortal technique. One of the advantages of being an immortal was that one could truly master immortal techniques. Using the power of the secret-seeking realm, although the power would be much weaker, it would definitely be stronger than ordinary martial techniques. Very well, immortal technique against immortal technique. Ling Han turned his fist into claws, his body like a goshawk's wings. He also exuded a fierce aura, like a prehistoric bird about to attack. Golden Eagle's 18 claws. Qian Sunlai was naturally shocked again. Damn, what was going on? How did someone in the secret-seeking realm learn immortal techniques? Are you a monster? While he was still in shock, Ling Han had already charged over. His claws danced, and golden light filled the sky. Qian Sunlai was shocked, but he was not afraid. He instinctively met the attack. Bang bang bang. The two clashed continuously, gold and silver flashing. Ling Han suddenly thought, since the demon monkey fist was taught to him by Brother Monkey, then it had to be a celestial technique as well. Moreover, he had once summoned the shadow of an incredibly terrifying demon monkey, and its might was truly indescribably strong. However, the demon monkey fist's strongest point was the frequency of attacks. It allowed him to fight a strong opponent without being at a disadvantage. The problem was that he needed to first grasp the opponent's attack pulse before he could launch his attacks. This made him passive. Could he ignore the opponent's attacks and form a frequency of attacks from his own end? He could try. Once he succeeded, his battle power would increase steadily. Ling Han's eyes flashed. He suddenly switched to the demon monkey fist. Damn, what the hell are you doing? Qian Sunlai was depressed. He was almost used to the rhythm of the 18 golden eagle claws, but Ling Han suddenly turned his claws into fists. The rhythm of his attacks completely changed, making him feel so uncomfortable that he wanted to vomit blood. Experts all like to study their opponent's absolute arts, and then break them. Now he had just grasped a bit of it, but Ling Han was not using it anymore. This made him feel like a little kid whose favorite toy had been snatched away. It was incomparably uncomfortable. However, as soon as Ling Han unleashed his fist technique, he felt an immense pressure. His opponent's body emitted a ruthless aura, oppressing his mind. Artistic conception. Qian Sunlai was shocked. Only celestial techniques could cultivate concepts, but not every celestial technique could. It had to be a relatively superior celestial technique, and the user had to be astonishingly talented, completely grasping the essence of the celestial technique. A mystic-seeking realm cultivator was actually able to grasp the essence of an immortal technique. Furthermore, this fist technique was so powerful. Normal intent realms would only affect the environment, such as placing one in a furnace or an iceberg. Only a few intent realms could directly oppress one's soul. This effect was more direct, but it was also a double-edged sword. This was because once the opponent's will was strong enough, they could in turn suppress the caster. From this point of view, the person who created this fist technique must have been an incomparably domineering and confident existence. Once I punch, I'm invincible. Ling Han was the same. With a long howl, his demon monkey fists punched out wildly. He seemed to have transformed into a ruthless ancient demon monkey, crushing everything in his path. He punched out again and again, feeling the vibrations from his fists. You're underestimating me. Qian Sunlai roared. His battle prowess was fully unleashed, and his telekinesis surged. His hands became incomparably bright, and the silver radiance seemed to be able to blind people. Boom boom boom. He kept clashing with Ling Han. When it came to battle intent, as a top-notch genius, he would naturally not lose to anyone. If you want to fight me head-on, then go ahead. I will definitely not back down. This was exactly what Ling Han wanted. He needed pressure to force himself to break through. The greater the pressure, the more motivation he would have. Luoxi's expression became more and more solemn. Although Ling Han had yet to enter the path of immortality, and accidents might happen when he leaped through the Immortal's Gate. What if he managed to leap through the Immortal's Gate without any damage to his battle prowess? This was going to be a formidable opponent. Strange, when did such a young genius appear in Anhua County? Ling Han gradually began to comprehend. He had already grasped the principles behind the frequency attack, but he was currently accumulating power on his own end. All he needed was a change. Like this. He punched out twice at lightning speed. The first wave of power was slightly slower, but the second wave of power caught up, forming a ripple. Bang! Ling Han could not help but stagger backwards. In contrast, Qian Sunlai did not even take a single step back. He seemed to have gained the upper hand. On the surface, it looked like Ling Han was at a disadvantage, but he was actually smiling. This was because his two waves of power had formed their own frequency attack, greatly increasing the power of his attacks. However, the accumulated power of his two punches was naturally unable to contend against Qian Sunlai's all-out attack. Thus he was at a disadvantage. Again, he punched out 3 times, one wave of power after the other, like waves crashing down on the ocean. Bang bang bang. Ling Han clashed with Qian Sunlai again. This time, he was still at a disadvantage, but the situation had taken a turn for the better. Ling Han let out a long howl, as his 4 waves of power joined together. 5, 6, 7. As Ling Han's frequency of attacks grew fiercer and fiercer, he gradually recovered from his disadvantage. He was no longer any weaker than Qian Sunlai. Qian Sunlai bellowed. He thought that he had gained the upper hand and would soon win. But Ling Han was just too tenacious, forcefully wiping away his disadvantage. Qian Sunlai's attacks became even more ferocious, wanting to finish off Ling Han in one go. But to the side, Rosie felt a chill run down his spine as he watched. As a bystander, he could clearly see that Ling Han had been experimenting with a certain technique or something else, and because he was unfamiliar with it, he had suddenly fallen into a disadvantageous position. But now that he had mastered it, he was able to turn the situation around. It was a very simple matter, but the meaning behind it was far too terrifying. In such an intense battle, Ling Han was actually able to experiment with a new technique? Just how confident was he? Just how perceptive was he? Rosie had a feeling that Anhua County was destined to have another dazzling newcomer. Ling Han roared with laughter. He had already completed the transformation, turning the frequency of his attacks into one centered around his body. Come! He punched out again, his fist madly vibrating at a frequency that was difficult to capture with the naked eye. In an instant, he had exerted a gravity of 70. The limit of the demon monkey fist was 108, and he was still far from reaching that limit. This was not a simple stacking of 70 layers of power. Rather, each wave of power had formed a specific frequency. Bang! Qian Sunlai took the blow head-on, but his expression changed drastically as he involuntarily retreated 3 steps. In contrast, Ling Han was completely steady. It was very obvious that Ling Han had the upper hand in the current situation. Qian Sunlai could not believe it. He stared at Ling Han in a daze, completely dumbfounded. How could this be? How could this be? Chapter 36:14. Qian Sunlai, let me do it. Luoshi stepped forward. Scram, I haven't lost yet. Qian Sunlai refused. Not yet. Luoshi shook his head. You don't even want to admit the difference between us. I'm ashamed to be associated with you in the future. Qian Sunlai was exasperated. In reality, he was only at a slight disadvantage. It was not like Ling Han had never been at a disadvantage before. Why did he lose just because he was pushed back a few steps? He was unconvinced and stepped forward to fight with Ling Han again. However, Ling Han had already adapted to the new frequency of attacks. He realized that this was the correct way to counter the demon monkey fist. Because the demon monkey that created this fist technique was most likely the ancestral king that Monkey Bro mentioned. That was an invincible emperor who once ruled over an entire era. Such a domineering figure, did he need to care about his opponent's attacks? No need. Once I punch, I'm invincible. Hence, after Ling Han adapted, he could use the demon monkey fist even more smoothly. Although they were both using 70 stacks of power, it was obvious that his current frequency of attacks was more powerful. Qian Sunlai really could not beat him. Although he was not much weaker than Ling Han, he was still a little weaker. He was suppressed by Ling Han, even if he could hold on for a long time. After all, he was a genius and still cared about his face. In the end, he roared and retreated from the battle. I'm not fighting anymore. Luoshi stepped forward. You have the right to declare your name now. These words were obviously directed at Ling Han. With his status as a Foundation establishment cultivator, this was not considered too much. Ling Han laughed. Let's fight then. What's with all the nonsense? He took the initiative to rush forward and unleashed the demon monkey fist. Right now, he did not need to first grasp his opponent's attack pulse. He was completely at the center of it. It was a comfortable feeling, and a domineering aura grew in his heart. I don't care if you are a human or a demon. I don't care how strong you are. If one punch can't do it, then two punches. Luoxi was helpless and was forced to face the attack. He had a well-thought-out plan. He hadn't been watching from the side for nothing. He had already thought of a countermeasure. But when he really started, he realized that it was completely different. The plan he had come up with was completely useless. He was also being suppressed by Ling Han. No matter what he did, he could not turn the situation around, and could only passively defend. Haha, Rosie, weren't you very arrogant? Qian Sunlai laughed heartily. He and Rosie were competitors, and since he had not won, he naturally did not wish for Rosie to gain the upper hand. Luoxi gritted his teeth as he executed secret arts one after another, wanting to turn the tables around. However, he didn't have many secret arts. For example, the demon monkey fist was extremely powerful. Just a single fist art was enough to suppress the entire world. Was there a need for other fist arts? No matter what he did, he was unable to turn the situation around. After exchanging 100 moves, he had no choice but to withdraw from the battle. If he continued to fight, he would not be able to gain any advantage. Although his competitor was defeated, Qian Sunlai was not happy at all. Two Foundation establishment cultivators, two geniuses of the Anhua Prefecture's younger generation, had actually been defeated by an unknown newcomer. How can this be endured? They looked at each other. Were they still going to spar? The two shook their heads at the same time. They couldn't even win a secret-seeking realm cultivator. How could they still have the face to spar? Let's go. What's the point of staying here? The two of them walked on the waves. Even though their cultivation was suppressed to the secret-seeking realm, walking on the waves was naturally not a problem. Ling Han smiled and sat down cross-legged, allowing himself and the spirit-nourishing gourd to absorb fresh air. The night passed and the sun rose. Gentle sunlight sprinkled down, but Ling Han did not feel warm at all. This frigid water lake was too cold. After one night, his telekinesis power had mostly recovered. He asked Tang Yun to come out and cultivate as well. But the little girl was extremely lazy and refused to cultivate properly unless he urged her. Strange. Why did the Calabash brothers' strength soar as long as they grew up normally? They grew out of the calabash vines. Ling Han's fire essence stones had not been used up yet, but if he used them here, the effects would be greatly reduced. Water and fire mutually restrained each other. He did not waste them, and put away the fire essence stones. Since there were fire essence stones in the extreme flame valley, would there be ice essence stones here? After cultivating, he dove into the bottom of the lake and continued his hunt. This time his efficiency was greatly reduced. Even with the help of 7 milk babies, he would not be able to gather enough water essence without a year or two. Not to mention Ling Han. The news of Luoxi and Qian Senlai's battle with Ling Han still leaked out after they left. The entire Anhua Prefecture was in an uproar. When did such a genius appear? Even though he was only in the secret-seeking realm, to be able to defeat super geniuses like Luoxi and Qian Sunlai, just how monstrous must he be? In a short time, the mysterious genius Ling Han became a hot topic of discussion. The Anhua Prefecture's younger generation had been selected based on their cultivation level, combat strength, battle achievements, potential, and other factors. Now that Luoxi and Qian Sunlai, who were ranked 8th and 9th respectively, had been defeated, the people ranked below them were all indignant. They had not even seen Ling Han's face, but they were already considered inferior to Ling Han. There were many young and energetic people who set out for Frigid Water Lake. They wanted to personally defeat Ling Han and prove themselves. On the other hand, when the Pang and Lei clans received the news, they immediately determined that this person was Ling Han. How could there be so many geniuses in this world? Ling Han had just appeared, and now another mysterious expert had appeared. Moreover, This mysterious genius was definitely going to Frigid Water Lake to collect water essence. Who else could it be other than Ling Han? This kid must be eliminated, the upper echelons of the Lei clan ordered. At all costs, the Peng clan's patriarch personally ordered. Once the two life core realm powers became serious, the amount of power they could mobilize was astonishing. They quickly formulated a strategy to deal with Ling Han's situation. This time, they would make this kid disappear completely. The experts of the two clans set out, bringing with them the treasures that they had paid a great price to obtain, and rushed towards Frigid Water Lake. Frigid Water Lake. Ling Han had already stayed here for 10 days, but his harvest was still very little, completely incomparable to that of the extreme Flame Valley. He sighed ruefully. No wonder, even though everyone knew of the existence of a good thing like the 5 Elements fortune pill, there were still so few people who were willing to refine it. Just look at this Frigid Water Lake. It was difficult. However, no matter how difficult it was, Ling Han would not give up. He had a kind of obsession towards perfection. Even if he knew that this was the best, he would not be willing to lose even a little bit. It was precisely because of this that he had become the strongest celestial paragon. On this day, he once again floated to the surface of the water, climbing onto an ice floe to rest. This ice floe was very small, not much bigger than an ordinary house. He looked into the distance, only to see a figure walking over on the waves at an extremely fast speed. Xiao, this person also discovered Ling Han, and with a leap, he had already landed on the ice floe. Are you that mysterious person who defeated Luo Shi and Qian Sun? That person asked. He was dressed in clothes made of golden thread, and he was full of arrogance. Chapter 36:16. However, although these two stones could chase after their target, the force of impact was not that strong. Ling Han's entire body shook, and he felt like he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. But that was all. His physique was too strong, and it could be said that he was invincible in the mystery realm. Moreover, the battle prowess here was limited to the mystery realm, so he could only spit out a mouthful of blood. Who was attacking him? Ling Han was furious. He did not mind sparring with others as long as he had enough essence of water. But now, someone had ambushed him. Damn it! He wanted to push the stones away to find the culprit. But the two stones were magnets, sticking tightly to each other. These were not ordinary magnets, and the magnetic force was so strong that he could not push them away. Bang! The stones fell and smashed into the ice. Logically, the ice was extremely sturdy and could not be smashed, but the interaction between the magnets produced a strong heat that quickly melted the ice. Xiao xiao xiao. One figure after another flew over. Ha ha ha, Ling Han, you didn't expect this, did you? There were a total of 7 people, and they all sneered. You killed the Qilin son of our Lei clan, and you think you can get away with it? Even if you hide here, we can still take you down. Ling Han's heart trembled. So it was the Lei and Peng clans again. He sneered. A life core tier force can only use such despicable tricks. Don't talk nonsense with him. Take him down quickly, or he'll sink, someone urged. Okay. Someone walked over, and was about to grab the magnets. Ling Han could not let them succeed. Otherwise, once he left the ice lake, he would not be able to escape death. Wang, he activated the killing intent attack, and spat out a golden sword, slashing towards that person. That person was completely unprepared. Ling Han was already trapped between the two magnets, so how could he have the strength to attack him? Under the killing intent attack, his expression became sluggish, and he was slashed by the golden sword, directly ending his life. A powerful cultivator of the Foundation Establishment realm had died just like that. Everyone else was stunned. They did not expect Ling Han to be able to kill a Foundation Establishment powerhouse in a second under such circumstances. It was like he was harvesting grass. Pung! The magnet melted the ice and fell into the water, bringing Ling Han down with it. No one dared to come forward. With the precedent set, who would dare to throw away their lives? Therefore, the 6 of them could only watch as Ling Han sank into the water. After a while they came to their senses and blushed. Facing a nobody from the secret realm, They actually did not dare to make a move. This is so embarrassing. However, since this brat has sunk to the bottom of the lake, he's dead for sure, someone said in embarrassment. Yes. The others nodded in agreement. That's a green-red magnet that has been dyed in the blood of experts. It's not something that brat can break free from. Therefore, he was either frozen to death, suffocated to death, or crushed to death due to exhaustion. There is no fourth possibility. For the sake of safety, let's go down and take a look. Okay. The 6 of them entered the water one after another, wrapping themselves with flame energy to fight against the chill. They accelerated and soon caught up with the 2 magnets that were almost merged together. They could clearly see that they were sinking rapidly with Ling Han. However, after a while they stopped following. They had already gone very deep underwater, and the water pressure was getting more and more terrifying. If they continued, their bodies would be crushed by the pressure. There was no other way. They could only use the strength of a secret realm cultivator here. Therefore, they stopped one after another and watched as Ling Han and the 2 magnets sank deeper and deeper until they disappeared into the darkness. They began to float up, jumping out of the water and standing on the ice floes. He's dead. The 6 of them nodded. This time, Ling Han had no chance of survival. In the lake, Ling Han was trying to think of a solution. The attraction of the 2 magnets was too terrifying. He could not break free at all. And he could not enter the spirit-fostering gourd either. There was no way forward or backward. Not only that, he also needed to resist the crushing force of the magnets and communicate with the flame energy. Otherwise, he would be frozen to death before he was crushed to death. More importantly, he was still at the bottom of the lake. Without air, an hour was his limit. Could he only choose between being crushed to death, frozen to death, or suffocated to death? The magnets continued to sink. Ling Han's mind was racing. He had to get out as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would have to face an even more serious problem: water pressure. Destructive energy. This was the only solution that Ling Han could think of. It had to work. Due to the limitations of his psychic energy, he withdrew the flame energy and circulated the destruction energy. In an instant, his hands and legs were shrouded in black energy. Under the powerful destruction energy, his shoes instantly turned into nothingness. Ling Han reached out and pressed on the magnets, but to his disappointment, the magnets did not change at all. No effect. No, it might be that the magnets themselves were made of amazing materials, so they could not be destroyed in a few blows. He could not give up. Ling Han continuously activated the destructive energy. Right now he could only risk it all. If he could not break the magnets, he would not be able to escape death. The magnets sank rapidly. This thing was abnormally heavy and sank very, very quickly. The water pressure came crazily. Ling Han only felt that every part of his body was being crushed. His skin instantly broke, and blood flowed out, leaving behind a long line of blood that went straight to the bottom of the lake. Fortunately, Ling Han had cultivated the true extreme state of each realm. His body was incomparably strong, and he could withstand the bone barrier. He was still sinking, and blood flowed out of his eyes, nose, and ears. At this moment, he found that his hands and feet had a slight area to move. A portion of the magnets had been destroyed. Ling Han's spirit was lifted, and he hurriedly continued. Water pressure, compression, and extreme cold. Ling Han had to face 3 major problems at the same time. If it was someone else, any one of these problems would be fatal, but he managed to withstand it. The 7 transformations made his blood energy incomparably vigorous, and he had no problem resisting the cold for a short period of time. Heavy, 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 heavy. Ling Han was in a race against time. If he really reached the bottom of the lake, he might not even have the strength to swim back up. The space he had to move in was getting larger and larger, and the water pressure was getting more and more terrifying. Suddenly, Ling Han felt his body tremble, and then he collapsed. He had reached the bottom of the lake. Ling Han came to a sudden realization. This place was too dark, and he could not see anything at all without using his eye ability. But after his feet stepped into the mud, he naturally came to his senses. The water pressure here was too terrifying. Ling Han felt as if even his bones were trembling,
and even the qi and blood that he had obtained after the seventh transformation was almost unable to sustain his life force. His life force was rapidly diminishing. Ling Han still did not give up. For a person like him, even if he was about to take his last breath, he would still fight. Destructive energy surged. Ling Han let out a silent roar, making one last attempt. Ka! The magnets made a crisp sound. Chapter 36:17. The magnet was about to break. Ling Han hurriedly gathered his remaining courage and increased the intensity of the destructive energy. His spiritual power was almost exhausted. If he couldn't break the magnet, then he really had no other way. He was even overloading now, and he only felt that his head was swollen. Loosened. Ling Han struggled with all his might, and his whole body immediately floated upwards, while the two magnets joined together. However, if he were to tug again, he would discover that the magnets would very easily separate. Because the structure was severely damaged by the destructive energy, the magnetic force was naturally not strong. Ling Han couldn't resist it anymore, and hurriedly entered the spirit-nourishing gourd. The moment he entered, he seemed to see a light in the distance. How could there be light at the bottom of such a deep lake? With a vague thought, Ling Han entered the gourd and immediately fainted. Vaguely he seemed to hear Tang Yuner shouting, "Smelly Ling Han, why are you so miserable? Don't faint, otherwise who will cook for me? This damn child, she only knows how to eat. I will definitely teach her a lesson later." He finally fainted. After sleeping for an unknown period of time, Ling Han was woken up by a feeling of suffocation. "Ling Han, what the hell are you doing?" Tang Yuner bared her teeth. "What does it have to do with me if you can't think straight and jump into the lake? Why do you have to jump with me?" She went out earlier, but she was almost squeezed into minced meat by the water pressure. Fortunately, she still had a secret treasure on her, which played a role in time, allowing her to escape into the gourd again. But although the space of the gourd was not small, it couldn't withstand the breathing of two people. Now the air content was getting lower and lower. She still didn't know how to save and hold her breath, but Ling Han didn't know that he had fainted and consumed most of the air. Ling Han chuckled and said, "Don't worry, I have almost recovered. I will take you out now." His physique was really strong. After just sleeping like this, his external injuries were almost healed, and his mental power had also recovered a little. But to return to his best state, he still had to return to the shore. "You better hurry up, or else I'll become a suffocating ghost." Tang Yuner stuck out her tongue. "If I die, then I'll hang behind you every day to scare you." Ling Han chuckled and exited the gourd. Just as he was about to float up, he suddenly recalled the scene he saw when he entered the gourd. There should be enough time for him to look for it after he stopped. The water pressure was astonishing, but Ling Han had endured it for so long before. Moreover, it was under the pressure of the magnetic stones. Naturally, it was easier for him now. The main reason was that his physique was too tyrannical and too comprehensive. Otherwise, even if there were people who had cultivated 7 bones, their internal organs would not be able to withstand such pressure, and their hearts and livers would explode. He circled around the lake, and sure enough, Ling Han caught a glimpse of that bright light again. He hurriedly swam towards that place. Although he couldn't display his speed in the lake, it was convenient for him to be strong. His feet tapped on the bottom of the lake, and an enormous force immediately erupted, propelling him forward like a swordfish. It was just that there were no water elemental creatures at the bottom of the lake. This place could crush all existences in the secret realm. As Ling Han approached, the light grew bigger and bigger, and gradually revealed its true appearance. Ling Han couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. It was actually a palace. There was actually a palace at the bottom of the cold lake. He quickly arrived nearby, and saw that the entire palace was wrapped in a curtain of light. He tried to reach out and touched it, and was surprised to find that the curtain of light was like mud. His hand squeezed through just like that. Ling Han's curiosity was too great. He almost didn't hesitate, and his whole body also squeezed in. After one step, he suddenly felt his body become light. The water pressure disappeared. This was an empty space, without a drop of water at all.
Ling Han was surprised. He knew how terrifying the water pressure was, but this layer of light that he could easily pass through could actually block it. This was full of contradictions. Ah, baby is suffocating to death. Tang Yun came out of the gourd and breathed heavily. After entering this space, the essence-nourishing gourd naturally replenished the air, and also let the little girl know that she had already left the bottom of the lake. She looked around and couldn't help but reveal a look of novelty, because there was a vast ocean around her, and in front of her was a huge palace. This was a scene that she never expected. Ling Han, where did you kidnap me to? Ling Han knocked lightly on her head and said, no one abducted and sold you. As if, the little girl muttered. Since they were already here, they had to go take a look no matter what. Now they were in the square in front of the palace. The bricks were like white jade, so bright that they could almost be used as mirrors. Tang Yun took a step and almost slipped. This immediately piqued her interest, and she began to ice skate. Come and play. She giggled. No matter how mischievous she was still a child. Ling Han smiled, and he strode in the direction of the palace gate. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. After a few steps, Ling Han couldn't help but stop in horror, because the palace gate wasn't even the slightest bit closer. He looked back again, and found that he didn't move forward at all. What the hell was this? Ling Han stared at his own feet, and then walked again. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. His pace was normal. He looked back again, and still hadn't taken a step out. But wasn't the little girl skating? Wait a minute. Ling Han walked along the periphery of the palace, and sure enough, he immediately felt the change in his perspective. He could only walk in circles and couldn't get close. Ling Han walked around the palace, but no matter which position he walked towards the palace gate, he couldn't move forward. He thought for a while, and came to a position directly facing the palace gate, and decided to fight to the death from here. Ling Han, this place is so strange. The little girl said. There's definitely a formation set up, but it's too brilliant, and I can't find any traces at all. Ling Han expressed his agreement. He activated his ocular technique, and couldn't find any traces of a formation. It could only be said that the person who set up this formation was too brilliant. Since that was the case, Ling Han decided to walk forward with a single thought. At most, it would just be a waste of time, but there might be amazing opportunities here. Just for the strangeness of this square. He started to walk, but if he used the little girl beside him as a reference, he didn't move an inch at all. When he used imminent, yet worlds apart, it was the same. He could only see his body trembling, but his position didn't change. Ling Han stopped. The burden of imminent, yet worlds apart was too great, and he couldn't take it anymore. He just walked at a normal pace, and his eyes were sharp. After half a day, Tang Yun complained that she was hungry. Ling Han threw food to her for her to heat up, which made the little girl very dissatisfied, and she complained that Ling Han was abusing children. Ling Han had a feeling that this might be a test. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.